A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio. A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
This is your old friend Strollin Tom greeting you and wishing you the time of day. I've planned a little setting of songs and a bit of philosophy for your entertainment and happiness, and I hope it pleases you and may point to better times for all of us. Speaking about pointing, by the way, have you ever watched one of these contraptions that they put up on houses and barns to tell you which way the wind is a-blowing? A weather vane, I think it's called. And no matter which way that old wind blows, that rooster or arrow or whatever the symbol may be turns in that direction. We have one on our garage, and it reminds me of some folks that I've met from time to time. I guess you've heard that old expression, let's wait and see which way the wind blows. Well, I sometimes wondered why they had to wait and see which way it blew. No matter what course it took, they'd go in the same direction anyhow, blowing from here to there and hither and yon, and just lighting long enough to say hello and goodbye. Just like the weather vane, gone with the wind, looking, hunting, searching for romance or wealth or happiness, and never giving the poor chaps time enough to catch up with them. Stars of the western sky, keep guiding me o'er hill and dale and winding trail and over the great divide. Lord of the western sky, abide heart is satisfied. I noticed that with the slightest little puff of wind, this old weather vane would jump and head front, just sort of hoping that it would be off to a full speed ahead. I just had to laugh, thinking, I wonder what it would do if the wind hit it in all directions at the same instant. Wouldn't it have a busy time? Just like some folks that can't make up their minds what they want or which way they want to go. And no matter what they choose, they're sorry they didn't take something else. They just can't seem to see things as others see them. Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland afore ye. But me and my true love, we never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. By yon bonny banks and by yon bonny braes, where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond, where me and my true love were ever once again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Oh, you take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland afore ye. But me and my true love, we never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. I'm sorry for the fellow if he cannot look and see in a great fire's friendly flaming all the joys which used to be. If in quiet contemplation of a cheerful, ruddy blaze, he sees nothing there recalling all his happy yesterdays, then his mind is dead to fancying his life is bleak and bare, and he's doomed to walk the highways that are always thick with care. When the logs are dry as tinder and they crackle with the heat, and the sparks like merry children come a-dancing round my feet, in the cold, long nights of autumn, I can sit before the blaze and watch a panorama born of all my yesterdays. I can leave the present burdens and that moment's bit of woe, and claim once more the gladness of the bygone long ago. There are no absent faces in the great fire's merry throng. No hands in death are folded, and no lips are stilled to song. All the friends who were are living, like the sparks that fly about. They come romping out to greet me with that same old merry shout, till it seems to me I'm playing once again on boyhood's stage, where there's no such thing as sorrow, and there's no such thing as age. I can be the carefree schoolboy. I can play the lover, too. I can walk through Maytime orchards with the old sweetheart I knew. I can dream the glad dreams over, greet the old familiar friends in a land where there's no parting, and the laughter never ends. All the gladness life has given from a great fire I reclaim, and I'm sorry for the fellow who can only see the flame. And no matter what wind may blow, friends, or where it may take us, there comes a time in all of our lives when we turn our thoughts and hopes to home. Home is a very simple little word, but it has a pulling power that no wind that ever blew can drive from out our hearts. In the gloaming by the fireside, with you I'll be content. In the gloaming by the fireside, every hour will be well spent. We'll see our hopes and dreams dear, like pictures in the fire, finding in its gleam still our heart's desire. In an armchair by the fireside, just big enough for two, we'll be happy, oh so happy, while we do as lovers do, with no one there to notice a little kiss or two. In the gloaming by the fireside, with you. Until the dawn's new day, we wish you peace upon your way. May he who watches from above smile down on you with all his love. Bye now. Goodbye, everybody. We've had a happy time once more. Goodbye, everybody. Friendship's knocking at your door. Clouds may hide your silver lining, but beyond you'll find the blue. So goodbye, everybody. Goodbye to you and you.
The Signal Oil Program, The Whistler. That whistle is your signal for the Signal Oil Program, The Whistler.
I am the Whistler, And I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak.
Yes, friends, it's time for the Signal Oil program, The Whistler. Rated tops in popularity for a longer period of time than any other West Coast program in radio history. And Signal gasoline is tops, too, tops in quality. It takes extra quality, you know, to give you extra mileage. And Signal is the famous Go Farther gasoline. So look for the Signal Circle sign in yellow and black that identifies independently operated Signal stations from Canada to Mexico. And now the Whistler's strange story. The Hangtree Affair.
It was boredom that got Lee Ryan into it in the first place. His train out of Chicago for the West Coast was moving slow, with further delays expected because of the snowstorms ahead. Yes, he was bored and impatient. His last business venture in Chicago hadn't paid off too well, and he looked forward to his arrival in California and the prospects of a deal worthy of his talent. Lee decided that the club car might help pass the time. It did. The car was crowded, and he found himself sitting with a talkative man who seemed to know many things about many people, including a number of their fellow passengers. He was a reporter, a man whom Lee had known casually over a period of years. A reporter who apparently loved to report, and he talked to Lee confidentially as if to his city editor.
Oh, you picked a great choo-choo, Lee. Yes, sir. I'm glad I'm getting off. You can carry on for me.
How do you mean?
Well, you can follow my boy, Jeff Larkin. There's no story there as far as my newspaper concerned. The city editor's washing it up.
Larkin? That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I bet he looks that way, too. Hey, right over there with that girl.
Oh, she's not bad.
Huh? Oh, she's just like all the rest. Hanging around him thinking he's going to get that money.
Money?
Oh, you didn't recognize him, eh? An ex-con. But I knew him when he was a big, big man.
And who's Lee?
Anybody. Time it happened, he was the brain.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they say. He'd planned the robberies, and his partner, Noisy Nevins, pulled them off. Oh, great team, great
Oh,
team.
Noisy Nevins, huh? The nitroglycerin.
Yeah. Oh, Noisy could blow a safe door off clean as a housewife and open a can of peas.
Oh, sure, now I'm with you.
They used to work together. But the last big job they pulled, a $100,000 bank job. Larkin got careless. He also got 5 years.
Who got the 100,000?
Oh, it disappeared, and so did Nevins. That's why I've been tagging Larkin around ever since he walked out of that pen 6 months ago.
Your paper figured he'd meet Nevins, split the dough.
That's right. Only my paper was wrong. Larkin knows from nothing where that dough is.
And Noisy?
Oh, he's quiet now as they get. And permanent, too.
Oh.
Yeah, got that way about a month ago. I think it was an auto accident out in Frisco. It was too bad. Nevins was probably the only guy in the world who knew where that money was.
You figure he stashed it away somewhere?
Right. Absolutely right. $100,000, and it stays stashed.
Well, that poor girl wasting her time with Larkin. Somebody should tell her.
Yes, $100,000. Unmarked bills.
Negotiable as a mud puddle and a pogo stick.
Say, you know what's a funny thing? Why, when I was a kid, I could never manage one of those things.
Oh, no?
No.
Well, I was pretty good.
Oh, you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, I'll be seeing you, pal. Happy as scoop.
Well, don't worry about me. I'm getting off the next stop. My best to Larkin if you should run into him.
Yeah, I'll remember. And I just might run into it.
Interesting, isn't it, Lee? A man with $100,000, only he doesn't know where it is. It was hidden away by a partner who's dead now. All very interesting. Yes. And you think about it a lot after you leave your reporter friend in the club car. Wonder if he's right. If that girl really is going to be disappointed. It's hours later that you feel the train grind to a stop. Glance out of your compartment to see that you've pulled onto a siding at a small town station.
Porter, Hey, what's wrong? Why are we stopping?
It won't be for long, sir. It's just the snow.
Oh, yes.
There's time to get off for a while if you want to. Some of the passengers are. We'll be here bottom now.
Oh, thank you. I don't think I'll bother.
Instead of leaving the train, you walk back to the observation platform. Stand there, looking off toward the few lights of the small, slumbering town of Springdale. You find yourself wondering about Jeff Larkin again and the girl. And then as the train is ready to move on, you see her, approaching alone from the direction of town. It's a chance to speak to her, isn't it, Lee? On impulse, you decide to take it. You start for the boarding platform at the end of the car and reach it as she comes up the steps.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to...
It's all right.
Oh, no, you've dropped your purse. Here.
Please, never mind.
I insist.
You bend down quickly, begin to retrieve the articles that are spilled from her purse. One you can't help noticing. It's a picture postcard addressed to Mr. Jeff Larkin. General Delivery, Chicago.
Give me that. Give it to me.
Why, certainly. Here you are.
Sorry, but I'm in a hurry. Thank you very much.
Afraid your boyfriend might miss you?
My boyfriend? I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry. I just thought you were kind of chummy with a fellow in the club car.
You're mistaken. Someone happened to sit with me because the car was crowded.
Oh, sure. That's happened to me, too. Forget it.
There's nothing to forget. Good night.
Night.
She wasn't very cooperative, was she, Lee? And you wonder why. Wonder also about the card addressed to Larkin. Why she got so excited about it. The next morning, following the stop at Denver, you find out.
Yes, conductor?
I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. Ryan, but we've been questioning all the passengers.
Questioning them? About what?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Lieutenant Knowles, Denver Police.
Lieutenant?
To explain quickly, Mr. Ryan, a man a few compartments down from you has been murdered.
On this train?
No, happened at a place called Springdale.
When we pulled into a siding, Mr. Ryan.
Oh, I remember. We stopped for about an hour.
Yeah, that's the place.
During that hour, the victim, a man named Jeff Larkin.
Larkin?
You know him?
Oh, no, I've heard of him, that's all.
I guess a lot of people have. Anyway, Larkin got off the train for some reason and never got back on. His body was found a short time later in an alley at the edge of town. He'd been shot.
Poor devil.
We've been trying to find someone who got off with him or talked to him just before. No luck so far.
But now, the young lady in 29, Miss Clinton, says she spoke to Larkin earlier in the club car. But that's the last she saw of him.
Oh, she didn't get off at Springdale?
No. She says she stayed in her compartment the whole time.
I see.
And you, Ryan?
Well, I walked back to the observation car. I was there, 20 minutes or so.
But you didn't observe anything.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Lieutenant. I didn't observe a thing.
With the prologue of the Hangtree Affair, the Signal Oil Company is bringing you another strange story by The Whistler. Recently, I was looking at one of the newly announced 1949 cars. As the salesman pointed out the air conditioner and the front seat that drops back to make a bed, I couldn't help thinking it's the trend of really modern products to do more than is primarily expected of them. Just as Signal Premium Compounded Motor Oil does so much more than just lubricate. Of course, Signal Premium has 100% pure paraffin base, the finest money can buy. But in addition, Signal Premium Oil contains scientific compounds that go to work inside your motor, doing jobs that regular oil alone can never do. One compound, for instance, washes out accumulated carbon gum and varnish. Another compound guards expensive bearings from corrosion. And still other compounds keep the oil from thinning and prevent excessive foaming. No wonder Signal Premium is the oil that guarantees a sweeter running motor. So next time you change oil, have your Signal dealer put in the modern type Signal oil that does so much more than just lubricate. Signal Premium Compounded Motor Oil. And now back to the Whistler.
Well, Lee, you don't have to wonder anymore about the girl you saw with Jeff Larkin. It all fits, doesn't it? The reporter's story about that $100,000 hidden away. Larkin's death in a deserted alley back in Springdale. The girl's claim that she didn't see Larkin leave the train, and that she herself didn't get off. You know different, don't you, Lee? And the knowledge gives you absolute confidence when you reach Los Angeles. Check into the same hotel that she does, and then half an hour later call her room.
Hello?
Hello, Julie.
Who is this?
Oh, friend of yours, a good friend. We, met on the train.
The train? I didn't meet anyone who
Well, you met Jeff Larkin, Julie. You got real chummy. Like I once said.
Oh.
Well, you still there, Julie?
Yes.
Well, stay there, huh? I'm coming down to your room so we can talk.
Now, wait a minute.
Now, you wait a minute, Julie. That's all it'll take me. Well, the name is Lee Ryan. And, Julie,
Yes.
I like my martinis very dry.
Well, don't expect too much, Mr. Ryan. I haven't any ice.
Don't give me that. So far, it's all you've had. Just, use that cold shoulder of yours. Have it right down.
I don't do this for everybody, Mr. Ryan.
I don't lie for everybody.
Really, you're mistaken about that.
Oh, is that so? Yeah, the drink looks good. I think yours looks better. Let's switch, shall we?
Casey, suits me.
Oh, good. Now, the business at hand, Julie.
Sounds terribly boring.
Oh, I'm not nearly as bored as I was when I started this trip. Things are beginning to look up. That's why I didn't tell that police detective that you got off that train. I couldn't resist a certain possibility.
Namely?
That you know something. Look, I don't care about Larkin. What were you after? What's that address unknown, Julie? That spot where Evan stashed that $100,000. Hey, I got it.
What have you got, Mr. Ryan?
The, postcard, that picture on it. Someplace up north. Mother Lode Country, Silver City, wasn't it?
You're talking thick, Mr. Ryan.
Hey, what did you do? What did you put in my drink? I'm getting dizzy. Julie!
I had you figured perfectly, smart boy. You shouldn't have switched seats with me. But you'll be all right.
Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan, are you all right? Should I get the doctor?
No, doctor. I'm okay. Where is she?
The young lady who called about you? She's gone, checked out.
Gone where?
She was going to catch a train, I believe. I'm not sure. She was just leaving her room when she saw you out here in the hall.
Well, give me a plane schedule. I want to go to Silver City.
Silver City? I don't believe the plane's landed.
All right, they'll get me close enough. I'll go if I have to crawl the rest of the way.
Yes, sir. Anything you say.
That's as far as the stage goes, mister. Silver City.
Here's your drink, mister.
Thanks.
Like I was saying, Silver City's real quiet during the day, but it'll open up round sundown. That's when the boys start drifting in from Hangtree. Oh, say, you was asking me about the stage. There she is, just pulled up in front of the hotel. You wouldn't be waiting for that little lady with the suitcase just got off, would you?
I sure would, Pop.
Classy. Oh, here's your change. I gave you some silver in case you want to play the slot machine.
Oh, there's no need to. I just hit the jackpot.
As you sit there at the bar, watch Julie enter the hotel across the street. You congratulate yourself, don't you, Lee? Your trip to Silver City paid off, with a bigger payoff yet to come. A quarter of an hour later, you see Julie leave the hotel. Watch her as she enters a cafe halfway down the block. Quickly, you leave the bar and hurry into the hotel.
Say, clerk, I've been expecting someone, a young lady. She was supposed to arrive on the bus.
Oh, Miss Clinton. Why, yeah, she checked in a little while ago. A roommate.
Oh, good.
But she ain't in now.
Oh, well, I'll see you later. Say, let me have your pass key, will you? I've left my key in my room. I'll bring it right back.
Well, okay. Just a second. I'll get it for you.
Moments later, you slip into Julie's room. Quickly, you go through her suitcase and pocket the gun. Then, as you turn, your eye catches sight of something on the dresser. It's the postcard, the same one Julie dropped on the train. The card addressed to the late Jeff Larkin. It boasts a picture of historic Hangtree Cemetery of Silver City. On the back, you can barely make out the handwriting.
Dear Jeff, be sure to look me up. You're out this way. Hope to see you soon. Johnny Burgess. Johnny Burgess? I gotta know more about him.
Burgess?
Yeah.
Well, how do you like that? Your friend was in here asking about him.
My friend?
The lady got off the bus a little while ago. Asked me if Johnny Burgess had been in lately. You know something? Johnny Burgess died over 50 years ago.
What?
Yeah. Silver Johnny, they called him. Big man.
Another big man.
Yes, sir. Owned the mine. Town, too. Yes, sir. You been out to the cemetery?
The cemetery?
Johnny's got the fanciest resting place of them all. Heard it cost over $10,000. Big granite crypt, got a life-size statue of Johnny on top, and... What's the matter, young fella?
Oh, nothing. Look, how do you get out there to the cemetery?
Oh, easy. Just go right down the end of C Street here, then turn left by the Signal Oil Station, go up the road. You'll see a tree top of the hill, that old Hangtree. Right beyond it, other side of the hill, real handy like, the cemetery.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot.
You're out of breath when you finally reach the old cemetery. As you start down the hill, you notice a handful of people moving about the tombstones. Tourists, ladies. Yes, they're all about you, peering at the time-worn inscriptions on the tombstones, taking snapshots. Then you notice someone else. Yes, there she is, standing before a massive vault, staring at the statue on top of it.
Quite a gent, wasn't he, Julie?
What?
Don't look so surprised, baby.
Oh. What are you doing here?
I'm writing a book on the Old West. Now, what are you doing here?
You won't believe this.
I'll try.
I'm writing a book, too.
About Johnny Burgess?
That's right.
Yeah, a remarkable character, Burgess. I understand that broken-down pile of rocks there, that crypt, cost $10,000.
I must make a note of it.
Doesn't look much like anything now, does it? Overrun with the weeds and all. That lock on the door doesn't look very good to me, does it to you?
I'm not an expert on locks.
You know, from here it looks like it could be forced with a marshmallow. I wonder what's inside. That is, besides Johnny Burgess, I mean.
I wouldn't have the faintest idea.
Look, baby, our tourist friends are going to be parked here all afternoon, if I'm not mistaken, so why don't we go back to town? Talk.
About the romantic old West and all?
No, about this. This postcard. And Johnny Burgess' crypt.
Where'd you get that postcard?
I happened to wander into your room. It was quite accidental, really. I was looking for the elevator.
May I have it, please?
Well, sure. Now, let's go back to town, find someplace nice and private. Your room at the hotel will do.
You know, Lee, you're a pretty smart boy.
Oh, thanks, honey. It was really very simple. Nevin sent the card to Larkin to let him know where the dough was stashed. Hangtree Cemetery. The $100,000 hidden in that vault. The final resting place of Silver Johnny Burgess. Give me a cigarette, will you?
Help yourself.
Thank you. You been to Frisco?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a great town. We could have a wonderful time there, Julie.
Could we?
Yeah, besides, we'll be rolling in dough.
Lee.
Yeah.
Just where do we stand? I mean about the...
We're partners, honey. We're partners.
I see. You'll have to give me a little time to think it over.
Oh, sure. You know, there's one little thing I've been wondering about you, Julie. How'd you break into this affair? You're not Larkin's girlfriend. You picked him up on the train, didn't you?
That's unkind.
Oh. So you and Noisy Nevins used to hold hands.
So we did. I met him in San Francisco while Larkin was in prison.
You must have discovered that your boyfriend sent word to Larkin when he got out. About where the dough was, I mean.
Something like that.
But Nevins didn't tell you where it was.
He was not very cooperative at times, Lee.
Yeah? I bet you even suggested Nevins double-cross Larkin so that the two of you could have all the dough.
Do you think?
Yeah, I do.
Well, Nevins wouldn't hear of it. He was one of those honest people, code of the underworld and all that. Funny, I thought he'd do anything I asked him.
Except double-cross an old pal.
Noisy seemed to think we could get along with half the money. Said he didn't deserve any more. Opening space came so easy to him.
Yeah, to him and his nitro. So when Nevins was killed in that accident, you saw that half go out the window. You didn't know where it was hidden, but Larkin did. He'd get it all. So...
Do we have to go into that part of it?
No, I guess not. We'll forget about it. We'll forget about everything except that in another half hour it'll be dark. And then we have a date with Johnny Bridges.
And $100,000.
Yeah, we can be in Frisco by morning. What do you say?
Oh, I don't know, Lee.
I can talk you into it. I know.
Can you? Well, keep talking, Lee. And they bye.
A half hour later, as you step out into the street, you suddenly discover that Silver City has come alive. The main street is swarming with men from the mines. As you walk past the saloons, the cafes, and stores, you can hear the shouts, the laughter, jukeboxes, and player pianos. You walk to the edge of town, stop, and stare at the hill beyond. Hangtree silhouetted against the sky. For a long while you stand there, trying to make up your mind about Julie. After all, Lee, she killed once. At last you turn and hurry back along the crowded street. In one of the saloons, you get the information that you want.
What's that again, mister?
The bus. What time?
Oh, yeah. There's one due there in, let me see, about another half hour.
Thanks.
You can catch it over there.
Yeah, I know. Not say, is there a phone in here?
Yeah, right back there, end of the bar.
Thanks.
You push your way through the crowd to the rear of the saloon, to the telephone booth, and place your call.
Hello?
It's all set, baby. Still want to go to Frisco?
Of course I do.
All right. Forget the stuff and leave tonight. Now, you wait for me. Stay right where you are. I'll pick you up in about 10 minutes.
I'll be waiting.
Sheriff's office. McQuinn speaking.
Look, Sheriff, you can check on this later, but an ex-con named Larkin was murdered in Springdale 5 days ago.
Wait a minute. Who is
You'll
it?
find the murder gun at the Elmira Hotel in room 8. It's under a seat cushion, a chair by the window. You'll also find the dame there who pulled the trigger.
Now, hold on here. Who is it? Hello? Hello? Who?
Bye-bye, baby. I'm going to miss you in Frisco.
The Whistler will return in just a moment with a strange ending to tonight's story. Meantime, since there are only 5 shopping days till Christmas, I have a brilliant last-minute idea. I hope there are no little boys listening, because what I want to suggest is that there is no finer present than a switch for that forgotten name on your gift list. The forgotten name I'm referring to is your car, and the switch I'm suggesting is a switch to Signal. You know that Signal gasoline must have something. For Signal to have grown so in popularity from a mere handful of stations in Southern California to almost 2,000 Signal dealers, serving 6 western states from Canada to Mexico. Of course, I don't have to tell you that Signal is famous as the Go Farther gasoline. But even more important to you is the extra driving pleasure you enjoy, thanks to the extra efficiency today's Signal coaxes from your motor. So if you want your gas pedal to keep that Christmas morning thrill year-round, remember Marvin Miller's suggestion. Give your car a switch for Christmas. A switch to Signal gasoline. And now back to the Whistler.
After 12 hours and several long-distance calls, Sheriff McQuinn of Silver City was prepared to do some questioning. He talked to Lieutenant Knowles in Denver and to the San Francisco police. Now at last he felt that the puzzle was beginning to fit together. All that remained was to walk through the quiet early morning gloom to the cell occupied by his angry, impatient prisoner.
It's about time you're talking to me. What's it all about? You can't hold me here like this.
Now, just take it easy, lady. I can, and I'm doing it.
But I haven't...
Sit down. I've been making some phone calls. Picked up lots of things about you.
What of it?
In San Francisco, they tell me you used to run around with noisy Nevins.
So?
So, that's very interesting. Add it to the gun you were carrying around, and it could spell a murder in Springdale.
You'll have to prove that.
Lieutenant Knowles thinks he can. The caliber of the gun, you know, ballistics, and then the motive. All that money.
I don't know anything about it.
Sure, you don't know a thing.
Why don't you ask Lee Ryan?
We don't have to, lady. We're satisfied with what happened to him last night was Nevin's work. Just like a hand from the grave. A double-crossing hand.
What do you mean?
Out at the cemetery, when your friend Ryan tried breaking into Silver Johnny's last resting place. Yeah. Yeah, Noisy Nevins was an expert with TNT. He wasn't planning to share that dough with anybody. He set a booby trap to kill his old pal Larkin. But Ryan got it instead.
Let that whistle be your signal for the Signal Oil program, The Whistler, each Sunday night at this same time. Brought to you by the Signal Oil Company, marketers of Signal gasoline and motor oil and fine quality automotive accessories. Signal has asked me to remind you, to get the most driving pleasure, drive at sensible speeds, be courteous, and obey traffic regulations. It may save a life, possibly your own. Featured in tonight's story were Frank Lovejoy and Doris Singleton. The Whistler was produced and directed by George W. Allen, with story by Joel Malone and Adrian Jondeau, music by Wilbur Hatch, and was transmitted to our troops overseas by the Armed Forces Radio Service. Remember, at this same time next Sunday, another strange tale by The Whistler. This is Marvin Miller speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
now, as gunshots echo across the wind-swept, snow-covered reaches of the wild Northwest, the challenge of the Yukon. It's Yukon King, swiftest and strongest lead dog of the Northwest, blazing the trail for Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police in his relentless pursuit of lawbreakers.
Run, King! Run, Husky!
Gold discovered in the Yukon, a stampede to the Klondike and the wild race for riches, back to the days of the gold rush, bringing you the adventures of Sergeant Preston and his wonder dog Yukon King as they meet the challenge of the Yukon.
The woman who was waiting in Sergeant Preston's office was beautiful, with very dark hair and eyes, her teeth brilliantly white against the deep red of her lips. She wore a sable coat and hat. There was a large ruby ring on the third finger of her left hand.
How do you do?
You are Sergeant Preston?
Yes?
I've been told that you're in charge here.
That's right. Inspector Conrad's gone down to White Pass.
I don't imagine that he's missed it all. If you don't mind my saying so, your appearance inspires confidence, Sergeant.
It's the uniform.
Extremely handsome.
Thank you. You have some business?
Yes. I should introduce myself. I'm Alexandra Carr.
A pleasure.
My brother Nicky and I have come up here to try and recover some stolen property.
Yes?
An emerald, Sergeant. An extremely large stone, about 25 carats.
Oh, it is large. Must be famous.
Oh, no, it isn't perfect. But it's worth about $50,000.
Where was it stolen?
In New York.
Well, what makes you think it's in Dawson?
It isn't yet, but it will be.
That's very interesting. Suppose you give me all the story in this car.
Well, after the emerald was stolen, we reported it to the police, of course. But they couldn't seem to do anything about it at all. Checking pawn shops, for instance. How could anyone possibly pawn an emerald of that size? Nicky and I decided to find it ourselves.
An ambitious undertaking.
We used our brains and an old axiom. Set a thief to catch a thief.
It's been known to work.
Well, it did. I suppose it was a little dangerous, but we managed to contact some important people in the underworld. And we finally found a man who had the information we wanted. It cost us $5,000.
Did you pass the information on to the police?
No.
Why not?
Because the man who stole the emerald had already left the country. It was in San Francisco that we found out who he was. And we were told that he'd taken a ship for the Yukon.
There was no need of your coming up here. You could have had the police in San Francisco contact us, and we'd have done our best to arrest the man.
Yes, we thought of that. I think we were afraid to try it.
Why?
This thief had friends as well as enemies in San Francisco. We were afraid they might try to do something to us. The communications are so bad between here and the States. Nicky and I had nothing else to do. Why shouldn't we come up here ourselves?
It's a rough country.
Oh, it's been fun, and it wasn't too hard a trip. We took the Northern Star to St. Michael.
And the Yukon Belle from there.
Yes. We just arrived.
Just in time. There's ice in the river this morning.
Here are some papers you ought to look at, Sergeant. They prove that Nicky and I own the emerald. And here is a description of the man who stole it. I hope you can read my writing.
Of course. Louis Milano.
He uses other names.
5'8", 150 pounds, black hair, brown eyes, scar on the left cheek. That seems to be complete enough. Why are you so sure he's coming to Dawson?
Because we were told he would. We thought he'd be here when we arrived. He must have come in by way of Skagway and the White Pass. That takes longer than it does by steamer.
Is there any reason why he shouldn't stop at White Horse, for instance?
He may stop, but he's come up here to sell the emerald to one of your bonanza millionaires. Perhaps to that man who's built the huge house north of Dawson. What's his name? Gates?
Gates is in New York. Cragman is manager, is the only one who's living there now.
Cragman?
Yes. You know him?
No, of course not. I don't know anyone up here. It's an odd name, that's all. Oh, there's one other thing, Sergeant.
Yes?
Milano has had the emerald completely covered with gold.
What?
The outside surface isn't smooth. It looks like a nugget.
There are a lot of nuggets in the Yukon.
But there's an emerald inside this one. Sergeant, I'm absolutely sure that you're going to find it for us. Nicky and I shall be staying at the palace if you want us for anything.
During the next few days, the sergeant made sure there was no one who answered Louis Milano's description in Dawson. And he sent the description by courier to every other Northwest mounted post in the territory. Also, and this was without Alexandra Carr's knowledge, he asked the inspector at White Pass to obtain all the details of the car robbery from the States. But on the evening of the third day, there was a sudden development. Nicky Carr burst into the sergeant's office.
Easy, boy.
Sergeant, I'm Alex Carr's brother, Nick.
How do you do?
I've seen him. I've seen Louis Milano. He was standing in front of one of the warehouses down on the waterfront, talking to another man. I came straight here.
You're sure it's Milano?
Absolutely. The right height, the right weight, the scar on his left cheek. I'll show you, Sergeant. Will you come with me?
Of course. Just as soon as I get into my pocket. Yes, King, you can come along.
The sergeant and Nicky Carr started for the waterfront. Dawson had had its first snowstorm, but the snow had melted, and the streets were muddy. The sky was overcast with the promise of another storm. A raw wind blew up from the river. It was a dark and dismal night. There was no light to relieve the gloom along the waterfront, but Nicky led the sergeant straight toward one of the larger warehouses.
Wonder what Milano's doing down here.
There's no telling with someone like him. Do you have a gun, Sergeant?
Of course. What were you doing down here, Nicky?
It was nothing but luck, Sergeant. I wanted to see if the river was solidly frozen yet.
It's dark. How'd you manage to make out Milano's features so clearly?
There was a lantern hanging over the door of the warehouse.
Huh?
There was, Sergeant, but there isn't now. That's the place just ahead of us.
It belongs to Roger Gates.
Maybe Milano was trying to sell the emerald.
Not to Gates. He's in New York. What'd the man with Milano look like?
Sandy hair, a beard, heavy set.
Doesn't sound like Cragman or anyone else connected with the Gates organization. There's no one in front of the warehouse now.
No, Sergeant, but the door's open. It wasn't before.
You better stay here. And I'll go on along.
All right.
Someone inside there, Ken? Yes, I can see. Someone just struck a match.
Cautiously, the sergeant and King approached the open door of the warehouse. Just inside, they could see a man kneeling, holding a lighted match. Stretched out on the floor was another man.
Put up your hands.
What?
You heard me?
Who are you?
Sergeant Preston, Royal Northwest Mounted Police.
Well, that's a relief. I thought I was going to get it.
What are you doing here?
Well, I heard the shot and somebody yelled. I was on Front Street passing the other end of the warehouse. I came running. This door was open. I lit a match. I could see somebody in here lying on the floor. I came in to take a look.
Well, what about the man on the floor?
He's dead, Sergeant. Shot straight through the heart.
Light another match.
Sure.
There's a lantern hanging on the wall there. Light that.
Yeah, all right.
Nicky, come here.
All right, Sergeant.
You ever seen this man before?
Me? Why, I don't know.
What kind of an answer is that?
Well, I may have seen him around town. He's not a friend of mine, if that's what you mean.
What is it, Sergeant?
Look.
Milano. Dead.
Yes. Is this the man you saw with him?
No, this man's much younger. Did he shoot him?
No, I didn't have anything to do with it.
What's your name?
Joel Turner.
What about... You know, Sergeant, have you searched the body?
Not yet. I will right now. Papers. Lawrence Miller.
That's another one of the names that Milano used.
And money. Nothing else on him.
No nugget?
No.
Can you find out where he was staying, where he left his things?
I'll do that, Nicky, in the course of my investigation. But my first interest is trying to find out who killed this man. Murder happens to take preference over robbery.
Well, I didn't mean it. Of course, I know.
Can I go now?
Not till after your story's checked. Did you see anyone when you came around the corner of the warehouse?
Yes, I did. Not clearly, though.
A man?
Yeah.
Can you describe him?
Eyes heavy set. I think he had light hair. May have been gray.
Sandy. That's the same man I saw.
Was he running?
No, but he was walking very fast. In that direction.
North.
Is it? Yeah, that's right.
Nicky, would you know him if you saw him again?
Of course I would. He shot Milano, Sergeant. I'm sure of it. He shot Milano and he stole the nugget.
Could have been the motive if Milano had the nugget. First, we'll have to get him down to headquarters, and then I want a full description of the other man, Nicky. We'll check every building in Dawson and every trail leading out of town before the night's over.
Do I have to?
You're coming to headquarters with us, Turner.
Yeah.
Let's find something in here to make a stretcher.
The dead Louis Milano was taken to headquarters. There, the sergeant grilled Joel Turner. He was able to account for all of his movements that evening, and finally, satisfied that he had no part in the murder, the sergeant released him, but warned him that he would be called as a witness. The search for the man with the sandy hair began, and every available member of the force was assigned to it. A few suspects, answering Nicky's general description, were brought in, but they were able to prove they were nowhere near the scene of the crime and were allowed to go free. Then a prospector showed up at headquarters.
May I see the dead man, Sergeant?
You think you know him?
From the talk that's going around, maybe I do.
He's in here.
Under the blanket?
Yes. Well?
That's him. He said his name was Miller. Came up from the south and into Shantytown late this afternoon. I met him in the Blue Moon Cafe over there.
Is that all? You only met him?
We had no place to stay, so I told him he could share my cabin. Brought all his stuff there, and we had some supper, and then he came over here. That's the last I saw him. Till now.
I want to look through his belongings.
Sure.
I'll have to be brought back here. It's snowing, isn't it?
Hard.
I'll hand this up my team and drive you home. Come on, King.
It was an hour later, when the sergeant had nearly finished with his inspection of Milano's belongings, that someone knocked at the door of the prospector's cabin.
Probably one of my pals, Sergeant. Tell him you're busy and can't be disturbed.
No, don't do that. I'll be through in a minute.
I want to see Sergeant Preston. Oh, there he is.
Well, Mickey. What's happened? Your head's bandaged. You've been wounded.
Yes. My sister shot me.
We'll continue our story in just a moment. Now to continue our story. Mickey Carr appeared at the cabin where the sergeant was checking through Louis Milano's baggage. His head was bandaged, and he made the startling announcement that his sister had shot him.
Your sister?
Oh, it's nothing, and it was an accident. But she's done something foolish and dangerous.
What's this all about?
You haven't found the nugget here.
No.
Or any clues?
I'll discuss that after you've told me about your sister.
Well, we've known something all along that we haven't told you, Sergeant.
What's that?
Milano came up here to sell the emerald to Roger Gates.
To Cragman, you mean?
To Cragman acting as Gates' agent.
I just learned that from this letter I found.
Oh.
What does it have to do with your sister?
Well, she and I were talking about the murder. We figured that the man with the sandy hair must have been someone that Cragman sent into Dawson to meet Louis. Instead of paying him, he shot him and took the nugget. Well, that means Cragman has it now. Alex said that we didn't need the police, that we could go up to Gates' place where Cragman is staying and get it back by threatening to expose him. I refused. She said she'd go alone. I tried to stop her. She had a gun in her hand, and accidentally it went off. The bullet only grazed me, but I was stunned for a minute. When I came to, she was gone.
Did you try to follow her?
Yes. I couldn't find her, but I'm sure she's hired a dog team and is heading north along the Yukon. If Cragman has gunmen working for him, she'll be killed.
I'll go after her.
Can I come with you?
Yes, you're the only one who actually saw the man who was with Milano. If he's up there, I'll need you to identify him. My team's outside. We'll leave at once. Let's go, King.
The ice on the Yukon wasn't strong enough to support a dog team, but the newly fallen snow made fast travel possible. And in less than 2 hours, the sergeant and Nicky sighted the Gates mansion. It was a big house, and the fact that it was built of logs didn't distract from its impressiveness. Inside, it was as well furnished as any of the great houses along Fifth Avenue. And during the summer, it was a scene of Roger Gates' lavish parties. But on this stormy winter night, it seemed desolate, deserted. Only one faint light glimmered from its shadowy mass as the sergeant drove up the hill.
On, King!
He's here, Sergeant. There's a dog team out in front.
Yes, that's the team she rented from Joe. I know that black lead dog.
I hope we're not too late.
We'll soon find out. On, King! Hi, Husky! On, King! With me, boy.
There's nobody in this front room with a lamp lit.
Someone coming. I can hear footsteps.
Yes? Why, it's Sergeant Preston.
Good evening.
Is this Cragman?
I'm Barrett, the caretaker. You wish to see Mr. Cragman, Sergeant?
We want to see my sister.
Your sister? I know of no young lady who's there.
We'll talk with Cragman, Barrett.
Yes, sir. This way, sir. Oh, Sergeant, please, not King.
Huh?
His paws are muddy in the rugs. I'm responsible for them, you know.
It's all right. You'll have to stay out here, King. Stand guard, boy.
Now, if you'll wait in the drawing room, Sergeant, I'll call Mr. Cragman.
Thank you, Barrett.
I imagine he's gone to bed.
I imagine he hasn't. Will you look at this room? Imagine finding something like this up in the Yukon.
Roger Gates is just about the richest man in the territory.
To think of his having a crook like Cragman for his agent.
We have no proof that Cragman is a crook.
He was in touch with Milano. He agreed to buy stolen goods. The letter you have is proof of that.
He agreed to buy an emerald. I'm not sure he knew it was stolen.
I am. He's too well known in the San Francisco underworld not to be a crook.
Sergeant Preston.
Hello, Cragman. So, Barrett didn't have to waken you.
I've been working in my office, the next room. But I confess that I was about to go to bed. What brings you here so late? On your way to Dawson?
We've just come from there. Looking for a young lady named Alexandra Carr.
Really? And you expected to find her here?
We know she's here. Her dog team's out in front.
I assure you I know nothing about her.
Well, listen, that's Alex. Sergeant, she's in the next room.
Here, have it, Cragman. March ahead of us and open that door.
Very well, if you insist, Sergeant.
Thank heaven.
Alex, are you all right?
Now I am. There was a man holding a gun on me, but I could hear your voices, and I had to let you know I was here.
Who was the man?
Barrett, the caretaker. He's the one who killed Milano.
Where is he?
He ran out in the hall after I screamed.
Nick, you have a gun?
Yes.
Mine's there on the desk.
Keep Cragman covered until I get Barrett.
The sergeant opened the door and ran into the hall. It was empty. The sergeant was undecided which way to turn until he heard King barking out in front. He ran down the hall to the front door and threw it open.
Get out of my way, Riley.
Barrett had reached the front of the steps, but King was refusing to let him go any farther. He darted from side to side, forward and back, menace in every move. Barrett raised his gun.
Drop it, Barrett. Drop that gun or I'll shoot. Drop that gun. Good work, King. We'll be with you in just a few minutes, boy. I'll move, Barrett.
Yes.
Back to Cragman's office.
It wasn't my fault. He made me.
You're talking about Milano's murder, aren't you?
I didn't want to.
Oh, you caught him, Sergeant.
Yes, and he's practically confessed to killing Milano.
I don't understand. His hair isn't sandy, it's gray.
I think you saw him with the light of a red lantern.
That's right, I did.
And wearing a parka, he might have looked heavy.
He did it, I'm sure.
Get over there with Cragman, Barrett.
All right.
There, you fool, you cowardly fool.
Oh, this relief, it's too much. I'm the one who's a fool to think I could threaten those two. To think I could force them into giving me the emerald. Why, Cragman simply reached out and took my gun away. But I have it back now, Mr. Cragman.
Do you have any idea where the emerald is?
Yes, in the wall safe in the next room.
All right, Cragman. Does something amuse you?
It's the funniest thing I ever ran into, eh? You can't be blamed for being fooled, Sergeant. But me, who knows Frisco like a book. She looks so different, though. It's the best act she's ever put on.
What are you talking about?
She's no more Alexandra Carr than I am.
The sergeant has proof of my identity.
Yes, I'll bet. I'll bet your current gentleman friend here is a forger.
You lie.
Sergeant, that woman is Gold Coast Annie, the slickest competence woman in California.
Nick.
As the woman cried out, Nick, who was standing behind the sergeant, brought the butt of his gun down hard on the Mounty's head, and he dropped to the floor.
Don't move, either of you two.
How about a little deal, Annie?
I'm making the deal. Nick, get some rope and tie both Barrett and the sergeant up. Cragman's going to need his hands free to open that safe.
At the very moment when Nick's gun came down on the sergeant's head, King leaped to his feet. Perhaps he heard his master's voice. He hurled himself at the front door of the house. He realized at once there was no way he could force it open, and he ran down from the porch and started to circle the house. There were no windows open at the side, and he continued on to the back and ran up the steps of the back porch. One of the windows off it was slightly open. King was able to stick his head inside. He tensed the muscle of his neck and pushed upward. The window opened a few more inches. That was enough. King wiggled through. The room he found himself in was a large pantry. There was a man lying on the floor, bound and gagged. King ran past him to the door. It was closed. He pushed against it with his forepaws. The catch held. He knew that he must turn the knob to open it, and he tried desperately. But it was impossible for him to get a grip on the round, shiny metal. One needed hands, the wonderful hands that men possess to turn it. King had recognized the man on the floor. He wasn't a friend exactly, but then he wasn't an enemy either. When the sergeant had said goodbye to him that evening, there was nothing in the tone of his master's voice to indicate that. Perhaps if the man's hands were free, he would open the door. King ran to him and started to chew the ropes that bound him.
Good morning, King. Hurry.
A few minutes later, the ropes around the man's wrists parted. He reached up to his mouth and tore off the gag.
You're King. If you're here, that means the sergeant's here, too. I'm luckier than I have a right to be. Just wait till I get these ropes off my feet.
Joel Turner worked fast. The last knot was untied, and he stood up.
Not too fast, King. Keep quiet.
The pantry opened on the kitchen. King ran across the room to the door that led to the center hall.
Wait a minute, King. I'm going to get a knife. Better than no weapon at all. Yeah, here, this will do. You seem mighty anxious. I hope you know where the sergeant is. All right, I'll open the door. Lead me to the sergeant.
Turner opened the door, and King ran down the hall to the door of Cragman's office. He scratched on it.
Are you sure he's in here? I can hear voices in the front room. All right, I'll take your word for it.
King ran to his master. The sergeant had recovered consciousness, but he was lying on the floor, bound hand and foot. Barrett lay beside him, also bound.
Hello, King. Turner.
That's right.
Do you work for Cragman, too?
No, I can explain everything.
Well, don't bother. Just keep your voice down and cut these ropes.
Right. How did you get free? You shut up, Barrett, or I'll use this knife on you. No. I was a fool, Sergeant. Barrett's the man who killed Milano.
I know that now.
I recognized him as he was running away. I can tell you because I wanted to capture him myself. Here you are.
Thanks.
There's a big reward for the return of the Emerald. I'm a private detective from the States.
So that's it. Just wait a second and I got some circulation back in his hands.
I came here and managed to get inside the house through the back. But Cragman got the drop on me. Barrett tied me up. Did the same thing happen to you?
No. Nicky Carr knocked me out. He and his so-called sister, Crooks.
I knew that, too.
Too bad you didn't mention it.
At least I knew they weren't the real Carr brother and sister.
Well, they're the ones in command of the situation now. They got Cragman in the next room, and they're forcing him to open his safe at the point of a gun.
Neither of us are armed, Sergeant. A knife isn't much use against a gun.
We'll have to move fast, and King will help. Yes, boy, come on.
Silently, the sergeant moved toward the door of the next room, with King at his side and Turner directly behind him. Carefully, the sergeant opened the door a crack, just enough to see.
There it is.
Take it, Nicky.
What happens now?
You'll join the sergeant and Barrett in the other room.
Then?
It would be a shame to burn this house down. Perhaps we'll cut a few holes in the ice.
You...
Hold your tongue and don't make a move or I'll shoot. Break the nugget open, Nick. Use that weight on the desk. We want to make sure the emerald's inside.
Okay.
Hurry up, Nick.
This is our chance, Turner. Nick's put his gun down. He has his back toward us. So is the girl. I'll get her gun. You grab Nick. King can watch Cragman. Right. Let's go.
I'll take that, Miss Carr.
Let go of my wrist.
Sorry.
I've got Nick. I've got his gun.
Keep him covered. Watch that man, King. I won't try to think. Keep me back.
Now then. This is something I should have mentioned before. You're all under arrest in the name of the Queen.
Oh, please.
There'll be no more talk. Anything you say will be used against you. Thanks to Mr. Turner here, the tables have been turned again, and you're all going to jail.
Oh, it's your dog that gets the credit, Sergeant. He's the one who set me free.
He has a habit of coming through in a tight spot. I don't know how he managed to get inside this house, and I don't know how he knew what was going on. All we can do is be grateful, Turner. Good work, King. Your case is closed.
These radio dramas are created and produced by George W. Trendle, directed by Fred Flowerday, and supervised by Charles D. Livingston. The part of Sergeant Preston is played by Paul Sutton. This is J. Michael wishing you goodbye, good luck, and good health. So long.
Ladies and gentlemen, from time to time, radio programs of vastly individual and divergent types are presented to advertising agencies, sponsors, and the broadcasting networks, each of them striving to achieve a definite and conclusive effect. There is, for example, The Mystery Show. Programs of this sort are presented for thrills, suspense, intrigue. Then there's the comedy show.
Hey, Louie, here's one that'll kill you. Why did the chicken cross the aisle? You give up? 'Cause it was a cross-aisle chicken.
Programs of this sort are presented for laughs, for rib-tickling mirth, for genial good fellowship. The program you're about to hear, Father Knows Best, starring the eminent actor, Mr. Robert Young, is presented for the next 30 minutes. In an average town, Springfield, on an average street, Maple, lives an average American family, the Hendersons. The husband, Jim, is very much in love with his wife, Margaret, and they're both quite fond of their 3 children, Betty, Bud, and Kathleen, which I should say is an average way for parents to feel. On this particular morning, which is an average sort of day, the Hendersons are ready for an average sort of meal, breakfast. Well, they're supposed to be ready, but you know how it is. The average mother calls,
Jim, your breakfast is on the table.
And the average answer is,
Mother, I can't find my skate.
Kathleen, come in and start your breakfast.
Oh, breakfast. Don't you understand, Mother? This is a crisis. How can I go to school without my skate?
Eat your breakfast, dear, and we'll look for the skates later.
Oh, but I have looked for them. I've looked just every place. They simply varnished.
Vanished, Kathy. Did you look in the hall under the telephone table?
Mother, that's practically the first place I looked.
Well, how about the service port?
They aren't there. They aren't anywhere. Oh, what am I going to do?
You're going to eat your breakfast. I'll run out to the garage and see if you left them there. And don't use too much sugar on your cereal.
Look way in the back, Mother, near the magazines. Oatmeal. That's all you ever get around here is oatmeal. Daddy, dear.
I want to speak to you, young lady.
What about Daddy?
Skates. How many times have I asked you not to leave your skates on the stairs?
Oh, is that where they were?
Oh.
Golly. I looked simply everywhere and I couldn't find them.
Good morning, dear. Did you have a nice... Jim! What did you do to your chin?
I came down the stairs on it.
Let me see. Oh, Jim, your poor chin.
Isn't it wonderful, Mother? Daddy fell down the stairs and found my skate.
I did not fall down the stairs.
Please, Jim, hold still. How can I fix your
I will
chin?
not have that child telling people I fell down the stairs. I tripped over her confounded skates. Is that the only place she can find to leave them?
Well, she's very sorry, dear, aren't you, Kathy?
Hmm? Oh, sure. Daddy.
Not now, Kathy. Have some coffee, Jim. It'll make you feel better.
Other people have children and they have skates. But other people have discipline in their homes, old-fashioned discipline. Kind of discipline we had in my home when I was a boy. There was a place for everything and everything in it.
Hey, Mom.
I'm sorry, dear. We'll try to do better. What is it, Bud?
I can't find my other shoe. Where'd you put it?
Look under the dresser.
Okay.
Is that where you generally put his other shoe?
Sometimes. How do you want your eggs this morning, dear?
Daddy,
I don't care.
I was just wondering...
Kathy, this is a very bad time to bother your father. We'd better let it go for a while. Shall I scramble them, Jim?
Oh,
Yeah,
but it's
that's
important, Mother. It's the most important thing in my life.
What is?
It's really nothing, dear.
All right, Kathy, stop looking like Ingrid Bergman and tell me what it is.
I need $2, Daddy. I'm desperate.
$2? What for?
Wings.
What did she say, Margaret?
She said wings.
That's what I thought. Why does she need wings?
I have to be an angel. I told them I would. I just have to be. And they cost $2.
It's the school play, dear. Kathleen said she'd be an angel.
Well, I can see they're certainly not casting the type. Kathy, you get an allowance, don't you?
If you can call it that. A quarter.
When I was 9 years old, I had to work for every penny I got. I couldn't walk up to my father and say, I want $2 for wings.
Were you an angel?
I most certainly was not.
Well, then, you didn't need wings. But I promised I'd be an angel.
All right, then find a way to sprout wings without my $2.
Oh, but Daddy, I'll be just ruined. Oh, Mother, can't
We won't discuss it any further, Kathy. Your father knows best.
How will I face them without wings? They were counting on me.
Morning, everybody. How's it?
What happened to the squirt?
Oh, just a minor tragedy. Drink your orange juice, Bud.
Say, Dad, I was just thinking...
Bud, not now. Let your father read the paper.
But I was just going to tell him
Not
about...
now, dear, please.
Well, but I have to. Gosh, how much time have I got left?
You don't mind if I get in on this, do you? How much time for what?
Well, Dad, we're going on a picnic tomorrow. A whole bunch of us.
Fine, have a good time.
He can go on picnics, and I can't even have wings. You treat me like an orphan around here. Nobody even loves me.
Oh, Kathy, stop being dramatic. Everyone loves you.
Sure, but not $2 worth.
Kathleen, your brother's not asking for $2. Your brother's not asking for anything.
Except permission to use the car.
Except permission to use... Except what?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. You see, we're all going out in the country, and I told everybody...
You're not going to use the car.
Well, but, Dad, if I don't, how am I going to go?
You have a bicycle, haven't you? When I was your age, I was traveling all over the state on my bicycle.
With a girl? How can I take a girl on a bicycle?
Jim, I just thought
One moment, Margaret. James Henderson, Jr., you are 15 years of age, and young men 15 years of age do not go traipsing around the country with girls in my car.
But everybody else does, Dad. I mean, they get to use their father's car. Joe Phillips uses his father's car, and he's 2 months younger than I am.
I wouldn't care if he was 3 months younger and had wings. You may not have the car.
But you know your father doesn't approve of children driving automobiles.
Children? If I want the car, I'm too young. If I want to go to the circus, I'm too old. I wish somebody around here would decide how old I am.
We've decided you're too young. Now, that'll be all of that.
I'll be an outcast. That's what I'll be. I'll be poisoned with every hunk of date bait in the school. Me and a bicycle.
But you'd better eat your eggs before they get ice cold.
What a time to think about eggs. Dad, how would it be if
No.
But I was just going to...
No.
But you don't even know...
No. Whatever it is, no.
Oh, fine. The way I'm treated around here, you'd think I was an orphan.
Copycat, I said it first.
Quiet, Squirt.
Kathy, leave your brother alone and finish your milk.
But I did say it first, didn't I, Daddy? I said it first and Bud heard me, and he's an old copycat.
I am not. I wasn't even listening to you.
You were, too. You heard me say it, and then you said it, and you're an old copycat.
I am not.
You are so.
I am not.
You are so.
Quiet, both of you, quiet. Oh, Margaret, why can't we ever have a peaceful breakfast in this house?
I'm sorry.
I don't think it's asking an awful lot. When I was a boy, we had wonderful breakfasts, quiet breakfasts, peaceful breakfasts. We had respect for our elders.
Sure, but you didn't have a kid sister like the brat.
I'm not a brat.
You're a brat if I ever saw one.
I am not.
You are so.
I am not.
You are so.
Quiet!
Good morning, Mother. Good morning, Father.
What's the matter with her?
I know. I was looking out the window at a bird. It was sitting on an egg.
How'd you ever tear yourself away?
Dear Bud. Such a lovable little moron.
Betty, dear, you sound so strange this morning. Is anything wrong?
Wrong? Oh, Mother, how can you even say that? In this lovely, wonderful world, how could anything be wrong?
Hey, Pop, you better hide your wallet. This one's gonna be a pip.
Father, if you don't do something about that
If you
child...
don't mind, I believe I can manage my family without your assistance. Kathy,
Yes, Daddy.
as your father, I'm quite capable of handling my own financial affairs. It may be a strain, but I can manage.
Yes, Daddy.
And I would prefer that even in moments of stress, you refrain from addressing me as Hey Pop.
Okay, Daddy.
Finally, I believe I am as well qualified as you to recognize the devious routes employed by your sister in leading up to the announcement that she needs a new dress.
That's telling her, Pop.
What?
I mean, Daddy.
You're all very amusing, but I don't need a new dress.
Dear, are you sure you feel all right?
I feel fine.
Betty, you don't want any money?
No, Father, why?
You don't want to borrow the car?
Of course not.
Well, at least there's one sensible child in this family. Betty, I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Father.
Yes, sir. What this country needs is more children who leave their fathers alone at the breakfast table. I think I'll have another cup of coffee, Margaret.
All right, dear. There you are.
Thank you. Well, Betty, what's the good word in your little world?
Oh, just the most wonderful thing has happened, Father. I'm going to be married.
Don't stand there. Do something. Do you want him to talk to Dad? Then.
I'm all right, actually.
You're going to be fine, Ed. Just fine.
Well, stop beating me on the back or I'll never be all right.
Oh, but Mother told
I did
me...
not tell you to break your father's spine.
Well, you told me to pound him.
With your hand, not your books.
Bud, you're going to be late for school.
I get it. Come on, Kathy.
Come on, where?
You're going to school.
I don't have to leave for 10 minutes.
Oh, that's what you think.
Hey, stop pulling me, you brute.
See you later, everybody.
Mother!
All right, Betty. Now, what was that newsy little item you dropped into the middle of my coffee?
Oh, you mean about getting married. Isn't it wonderful?
Margaret, did you know anything about this?
Not a word, Jim. I still don't. Betty, you're joking, aren't you?
Joking? Mother, do you think I joke about the most sacred thing in a woman's life?
Jim, she isn't joking.
Okay. Betty, you wouldn't mind giving us a little more information, would you? You know, just in case we want to get in touch with you later.
I don't know what you mean, Father.
Well, just for a start, who is it?
Who's who?
The boy, my prospective son-in-law. What's his name?
Billy. He's wonderful.
Oh, Betty, not Billy Smith.
Just wonderful.
Which one is he?
Oh, you know, Jim, the one who hates football players, the one Betty thinks is aesthetic.
Aesthetic? The one I think it is, that's a new way of spelling anemic.
Billy's delicate. You have to be delicate if you have a beautiful soul.
Well, that's exactly what this family needs, somebody with a beautiful soul. Margaret, I have to get down to the office. Explain to Betty that she'll be happier if she waits. Make certain. You know, the usual woman-to-woman talk.
All right, dear.
Oh, you don't have to worry about us, Father. Billy and I talked it all over last night, and we both decided against a hasty marriage. We intend to wait.
That's fine. I'll be home at the usual time, dear.
All right, Jim.
We're not going to be married until Saturday.
If you... Saturday?
Uh-huh. Saturday night. We were going to make it in the afternoon, but we decided to go to the basketball game first.
This is an emergency. Put your hat down.
I'll put more than my hat down. Betty, this is the most ridiculous piece of conversation I've ever heard.
Father, you mean you don't approve?
Now, there's the first intelligent remark you've made since you got up. I most decidedly don't approve.
But I don't understand. You've always liked Billy's father.
You mean Hector Smith? Of course I like Hector Smith. He's one of my best clients. Why don't you marry him?
But he is married.
Betty, your father and I've always thought...
Just a moment, Margaret. I'll handle this. Betty, you're 17 years of age. You're in your first year at the university. You will not marry Billy Smith or anyone else until after your graduation. That's final.
Graduation? But that's 3.5 years. I'll be over 21. Why, the best years of my life will be gone.
Well, darling, we can always have Bud push you up to the altar in a wheelchair.
You're laughing at me, and I think you're horrid. You're just old-fashioned, both of you. You've forgotten what it is to be young and in love. You don't seem to understand that things are different now.
Oh, Betty, nothing's any different. Things like that don't change.
They do, too. Things change all the time. People change, customs change, everything changes, only you won't admit it.
Oh, darling, why don't you listen to your father? Things are no different now than they were when we were your age. The young people wore different clothes and they sang different songs, but fundamentally they were the same, and even then boys and girls didn't rush headlong into marriage. Not until they were ready for it.
You bet they didn't. They listened to their fathers. They were willing to benefit from a lifetime of experience. Why, when I was courting your mother, I remember when...
How old were you when you married Father?
Well,
Yes, Mother.
I was 17.
But that was different.
Why?
Well, because things were different in those days. The people were different. The times were different.
You said they weren't.
Well, they were. Some of them were. Some of them weren't, and some of them were. Only the ones that weren't were more than the, Margaret.
Betty, don't you think it would be a nice idea if Billy and his family were to have dinner with us tonight?
Oh, Mother, would you? Really?
Margaret, I don't want the Smiths for dinner tonight or any other night. I think the idea of a dinner for the Smiths is not only ridiculous, but unnecessary. I forbid the marriage, and that's that.
Oh, Jim, you know you like having people in for dinner. The Smiths are very pleasant, and you might be able to sell Hector some more insurance.
Yeah, that's right. I might have that. But look, Margaret, I'm going to have a tough day at the office. I couldn't take a dinner tonight. Let's make it next week. Next month.
Dear, we can't put it off for even a day. I'll call the Smiths and see if they can make it. Shall I tell them dinner will be at 7:30?
7:30? What's the matter with 6 o'clock? I'll be starved by 7:30.
Jim, it just isn't done.
Well, it's going to be done tonight. We'll have dinner at 6.
I'll ask them to be prompt, dear, at 7:30.
Mother, can we dress? Can I wear my new dinner gown? Can I, Mother? Oh, please, can I?
Betty, there will be no dressing for dinner.
But, Father, Mother, please.
I'm sorry, darling. You know I never contradict your father. After all, your father knows best.
It's been a long day for the Hendersons. The specter of a fair young child, married and gone before her time, has hung like a pall throughout the day. It would have, that is, if the Hendersons hadn't been so busy. Jim, you see, had a hectic day at the office.
6? Why, you robber. How about the 2 strokes in back of that tree? And don't tell me those snakes followed you over from the last hole.
At the office. Bud has been involved in the intricacies of a higher education.
But, Margie, it's healthful riding on a bicycle. What? Look at all the fresh air you'll get and the beautiful muscles. We could even... Margie? Hello, Margie? Hello?
Kathy has been involved in serious plans for the future.
What do you mean they don't take girls in the Foreign Legion? I'll bet they do, especially without wings. You just wait, you'll see.
Margaret? Well, Margaret has been very busy cooking an extra special dinner for the Smiths. And if there's one thing Margaret can do, it's cook.
Yes, sir, Margaret. If there's one thing you can do, it's cook. That's what I always say.
You see? Now we can proceed. Proceed.
Thank you, Hector. Would you care for another piece of pie?
Oh, Margaret, please. I've already had 2 helpings.
You have 3.
Kathy.
How about another cup of coffee, Heck? Nothing like a cup of Margaret's piping hot coffee.
Well, if you insist.
Hector?
I guess I'd better not, Jim. You know how it is. Doctor's orders.
Oh, sure. Well, how about you, Doctor?
Thank you, no. 1 cup of coffee is quite sufficient.
Well, I'm a 2-cup man myself. You know, I was reading just the other day.
Jim, it's not that we don't enjoy your informative little talks, but I was under the impression that this dinner had, well, shall I say, a more or less definite purpose.
Oh, you mean... Oh, sure, absolutely. You know, I had a long talk with Heck before dinner.
Jim, dear, I hate to interrupt, but don't you think it would be a good idea if Bud took Kathy to the movies?
In the middle of the week, I certainly do not. Oh, I see what you mean. Bud, how'd you like to take Kathy to the movies?
Oh, boy!
I wouldn't. I can't think of anything I'd rather do less.
Well, that's fine. Here's $1. Have a good time.
Oh, Dad, do I have to?
Yes, you have to.
That'll be enough of that, Kathy.
But I'm surprised. You ought to be glad to take your sister to the movies.
I'd rather go with a gorilla. You don't know what she's like. She never even looks at the picture. She sits around backwards and stares at the people.
They're funnier. I like to look at their faces.
All right, Bud, get going and come home right after the show.
If I'm still alive. Good night, everybody. Come on,
Hey,
Stuart.
stop pulling me. Why do you always have to pull me?
Lovely children. They mean well, I think.
Mother?
Yes, Betty?
Mother, Billy and I have been talking, and... Billy, you tell them.
Would it be all right if we went to the movies?
Oh, no. Oh, I should say not. We're here for a purpose, a very definite purpose.
Yes, sir.
We have a problem to discuss, and we're going to do it right now.
Frankly, I think the whole thing is idiotic. Imagine discussing a ridiculous subject like marriage with these children.
We're not children, Mother. We're quite adult. We have adult minds, adult bodies, adult passions.
William!
I said before, Hector and I had a long talk just a little while ago. Right, Heck?
Right.
And we're in complete agreement on the subject, right?
Right.
We both feel that open discussion is the only sensible procedure in a matter of this sort, right?
Right.
Hector, stop being so agreeable.
Right. I mean, yes, dear.
Myron, Elizabeth, Hector and I have agreed on what we consider a very sound solution to the entire problem. We have decided to permit Betty and Bill to be married immediately.
Gee!
Holy cow.
I've never heard anything so outrageous in my entire life. Hector, get your hat. William, we're leaving this instant.
I'm not going, Mother.
As soon as William!
I'm 18, Mother. I've got a mind of my own. I love Betty, and we're going to be married.
Well, I never...
All right, now that's settled. You're going to be married.
Oh, Mother, isn't it wonderful?
I don't know.
Yes, sir. Nothing like marriage and responsibility to set a man straight. Where do you kids figure on living? After you're married, I mean.
Oh. Well, we sort of figured we'd move
Mother,
in.
couldn't Kathy move in with Bud? Then Billy and I
That's
could have
ridiculous, Betty. You've got to have a home of your own, a place for your roots to take hold and grow. Right, Heck?
Right. Well, gosh, that'd be kind of expensive. And on my allowance...
Oh, don't worry about your allowance, Billy. Married men don't go around taking allowances from their fathers.
They don't.
Of course not. They're too proud to be supported by their fathers.
I'm not.
Of course you are. You'll work, you'll sweat and slave, but you'll come home every week with a juicy pay envelope for your little wife.
Isn't that sweet?
But I don't know how to do anything.
That's not so. Poets make a living, and Mother, he writes the most beautiful poetry.
I'm sure he does, dear.
Billy, recite the one about my hair. It's just wonderful.
Oh, Betty.
Well, it is. Raven tresses on a lofty brow, swept by the winds of time. Isn't that beautiful?
Well, you could get a small house, poet size.
Say, Jim, I saw an apartment advertised the other day. It'd be just right for the kids. $125 a month, furnished.
Of course, that's without utilities. You know, gas, electricity, telephone.
And food. Don't forget food.
That's right. And laundry and cleaning.
Oh, they won't have to worry about that, Jim. Don't you remember when we were first married, I did all our laundry and cleaning and cooking. I'm sure Betty will want to do at least that for Billy. Won't you, dear?
I guess so.
Betty,
Yes, Billy.
could I talk to you for a minute? Privately?
Of course. Will you excuse us, please? We'll be right back.
It's all right, kids. Take all the time you need. We're in no hurry.
Are they gone?
I think so.
Jim, we did it. Yes, sir. By golly, we did it.
Oh, it was nothing, really.
Jim, stop looking so smug. What was nothing?
The psychological attack I planned for tonight. You see, I felt our wisest possible course from a tactical standpoint. Lay in a feint to their left flank and a drive through the middle. Do you follow me?
Yes, dear. Right up to the part where you started to talk.
Margaret, the whole thing is elemental.
Yes, and very clever.
We pretend to give our consent. That's the feint.
Believe me, I almost did.
Then we hit them with both barrels. The cost of living, the struggle for existence. They retire in disorder. Their armored units are smashed. Their rear guard is demolished.
What a fight.
Dear, the enemy is back.
Oh, come on in, kids. Everything all settled?
I think so, Father.
Pretty much settled, sort of.
That's fine. Now, what did you finally decide?
You know very well what we were forced to decide. We have to wait.
Why, Betty, I thought that you and Billy...
Mr. Smith, you don't have to continue the ridiculous performance you and my father were putting on.
Betty!
Oh, Father, you can be so juvenile at times, really. Apartment that's $125 a month.
We know some kids have one for $45.
You older people ought to get straightened out on the simple facts of life before you start fooling around with psychology.
Jim, your mouth is open.
Oh, well, now see here, both of you kids.
Just a moment, Jim. Betty, exactly what do you and Billy intend to do?
Well, as long as our families are determined to exercise parental prerogatives, we'll just have to wait until we're financially self-sufficient. Right, Billy?
Right.
Well, I never.
Well, Betty, how long do you figure it's going to take you and Billy to become financially independent?
A a few years.
Well, that gives us a little time to look around for a wedding present, eh, Hank?
That's right, Jim. A couple of years, it's a long time. A lot of things can happen.
Hector, how about another cup of coffee?
Oh, thank you, Margaret. I think I can use one.
You know, Margaret, I'm very relieved. I'm so afraid of hasty marriages.
Don't mind us, Mother. Just go on talking as if we weren't here.
Oh, I'm sorry, dear. It's just that I was so afraid you were going to make the same mistake I did.
Oh, I wouldn't exactly say you made a mistake, Elizabeth. Heck's a pretty nice guy.
Yeah, well, thanks, Jim.
You can send me a check in the morning.
I suppose I have been fairly fortunate. But, of course, people aren't always that lucky when they marry beneath them.
I suppose not, but when they what?
Elizabeth, we'd better go. It's getting late.
Wait a minute, Heck. What was that crack you made, Elizabeth?
Well, after all, my mother was a Stuyvesant, and I certainly...
In other words, you think Betty isn't good enough for your son.
I'm sure that isn't what Elizabeth meant, Jim.
That's what she said. Well, isn't that what you said, Lizzie?
Don't you dare call me Lizzie.
Why not? If you can say my daughter isn't good enough for that puny excuse of a son...
Now, just a minute, Jim.
Writing poetry. What makes you think he's such a bargain?
My boy has a fine head on his shoulders.
What shoulders? I've seen better heads on a small beer.
That's so.
Yes, that's so.
This is what comes from slumming.
Slumming? Now, you listen to me, Elizabeth Smith. Your mother may have been a Stuyvesant, but my father spent half his life picking your father out of the gutter.
He wasn't lying down just because he was tired.
I think I'm going to faint. Hector, I'm going to faint.
Go ahead, dear. I'll catch you.
You ought to be ashamed, upsetting my mother with your vulgar insinuations.
Vulgar? Why, you little pipsqueak. If you were my son, I'd vulgar you so hard you wouldn't sit down for a week.
Fortunately, I am not your son. Peasant?
Peasant?
Don't you dare call my father a peasant, Billy Smith. Don't you dare.
Well, that's what he is.
He is not.
He certainly is.
Well, I'd rather be a peasant than a pipsqueak.
Don't you call me a pipsqueak.
I will if I want to. Pipsqueak.
Peasant?
I never want to see you again as long as I live.
Well, you won't if I can help
You're
it.
just an
Hector.
Just a minute, dear. Say, Jim.
Sorry I lost my temper, Heck.
Oh, that's all right. Say, Jim, that thing about... Hey, Jim, that thing about picking Elizabeth's father out of the gutter, is that true?
Sure, it's true. Why?
Oh, just wait till she pulls that Stuyvesant stuff on me again. Thanks for a lovely evening, folks. Come on, Lizzie.
Yes, dear.
And, Billy?
Yes, Father.
Come on, Pipsqueak.
Well, we started with breakfast, and we might as well finish the same way. Let's drop in at the Hendersons at breakfast time the very next morning. The average children are still getting dressed. The average mother is racing around the kitchen. And the average father...
Jim, where are you going?
I got to rush, dear. Can't stop for breakfast. Just time to catch the bus.
The bus? But I thought you
Never
said...
mind what I said. Just tell Bud if he gets one scratch on that car, I'll brain him.
All right, dear.
I'll be home at the usual time. Be a good girl.
I'll try, dear. Oh, Jim?
Yes?
Where did you leave the car keys?
The keys? Oh, they're on the dresser. On top of Kathy's $2.
Jim?
Now what's the matter?
Remind me to tell you, you're an angel.
I'm a dope.
You are not.
I've got witnesses.
Oh, well, why should I argue? After all, Father knows best.
Members of our cast are Robert Young as Jim Henderson, June Whitley as Margaret Henderson, Rhoda Williams as Betty, Ted Donaldson as Bud, Norma Jean Nielsen as Kathy. Robert Young will soon be seen in RKO's Baltimore Escapade. Ted Donaldson may be seen in Warner Brothers' Decision of Christopher Blake. Others in tonight's cast were Virginia Gordon, Herb Vigran, and Sam Edwards. Music was written and conducted by Roy Bargy. Father Knows Best was conceived and written by Ed James. Entire production under the direction of Herb Sanford. Bill Foreman speaking.
Good evening, friends. This is your host to welcome you through the creaking door into the inner sanctum. Come in, come in. We had a surprise visitation here a scream or two ago. A sightseeing delegation simply crazy to take it all in. One onlooker's mouth was so agape you'd think his face was split from ear to ear. Confidentially, chum, it was. The head of the delegation was terribly proud of his honorary title. Poor chap, it was the only head he had. Ah, yes. Things went along cozily until some wag suggested holding hands. We brought out a trunk full of hands we keep for just such occasions.
Tonight's Inner Sanctum Mystery, Between Two Worlds, was written by John Robert and stars Mason Adams in the role of Sam, with Ann Shepard as Connie.
It's Yuletide week in South Chicago as a flash electric storm whips the streets. Inside the 10th District Police Station, Chief Matthews and his clerk Daly are passing the time over a game of chess. Suddenly, like a bolt from the heavens, a window pane crashes, and a parcel fastened to a fist-sized rock drops to the station house floor.
It's a package tied to a rock, Chief.
And what's in it?
Oh, a notebook, Chief. A 5 and dime notebook. And all written up like a confession. It's signed Sam Tyler.
Sam Tyler, never heard of him. Read me what Sam Tyler's got to say.
Ever come face to face with death and just stand around helplessly waiting for it to tap you? Waiting for the final count. While you're waiting, your heart is a big clock ticking off your doom. And inside your head, a moving picture's going on. You're looking at the story of your life. And it's not a pretty story. It's all black. It's all bad. You hate to die without a single good mark in the big book. If you only had just enough time to chalk up one good deed. It happened like that with me. I came face to face with death. Death was Nick Fazenda. I'd lost face with Nick. The big guy liked his racket boys tough and nerveless, and I had a streak of chicken, Nick said. I had a streak of chicken, and I knew too much to be trusted alive.
What do you want, chicken?
Nick, don't do it. Give me another chance. Dying like this scares me. What's waiting for me after you pull that trigger, Nick? I haven't done one decent thing since I was born.
Kid, you picked the wrong setup. You should have joined the Boy Scouts. So long, chicken.
Shot made a noise like a TNT charge, but I hadn't felt the impact. I hadn't felt anything. Either I was paralyzed with fear or dead to feeling. Or Nick had missed. I watched Nick stare unbelievingly and aim again. An easy bullseye at 5 yards with Nick a cracked shot, but still no impact. I was still standing up.
Kid, fall down. You're dead.
No, Nick. I'm alive. You can't kill me. Nick, you're seeing a miracle happen.
You're crazy.
Nick, I'm going to get that chance. I'm going to live. 2 more shots, but still no impact. I was alive, uninjured. Something was happening to Nick. His face was purpling as if he was suffocating. Some invisible stranger had his hands around Nick's throat, strangling him. Kidder, I'm choking to death. I hope... Nick was on the floor. I watched the color wash out of his face, watched him go rigid. I crouched and listened to his heart. Not a sound. Not a murmur. He was dead. Nick had dropped dead. I'd seen a miracle happen. I hopped a midnight freight heading east. I was in the boxcar loaded with crates of eggs, still sweating over my narrow escape, when I got a spooky feeling that I wasn't alone. I lay still, choking back my breath with my hand tied around Nick's gun.
You have no need for the gun, Sam.
How did you know my name?
I know all about you, Sam. Put down your gun.
It's up on the trigger, it's cocked, so no tricks or you're a goner.
Goner. Too late for that, Sam. I am a goner already.
What kind of crazy talk?
I died, Sam, just 1 year ago.
You're your own ghost. Get your hands up high, Mr. Whiskers, so I can frisk you. I reached to frisk Umslante's pockets for a rod, but there was no one to touch. I was only grabbing at empty air.
I told you I died a year ago, Sam. I saved your life tonight. I gave you your wish, your chance to do one decent thing before you died. Did you mean the promise you made?
No. That's Graham. They drive me crazy.
And you lied in the face of eternity. I'll have to recall the time given you.
What do you mean, recall the time?
You're living on borrowed time, Sam. You were meant to die by Nick's first bullet. You remember how Nick died?
Yeah. All of a sudden he couldn't breathe. Felt like his lungs were gone and his heart was calling quick.
Like you're beginning to feel now.
I can't breathe. I'm choking. My lungs are going. When I came to, Mr. Whiskers was smiling over me.
You did mean your promise to tomorrow, didn't you, Sam?
Sure I did. Anything you say.
Then continue on to Chicago. When you arrive there, spend your time waiting in a restaurant called the Spread Eagle. Sooner or later you will be approached. You are to lend yourself to any situation that arises. Any situation, understand?
Sure, I understand. This good deed I'm to do on borrowed time. What's your interest in it?
Deeply personal, Sam. I am no longer among the living, but I have no place among the dead. I walk between two worlds. You see, Sam, in life I didn't have one decent thing to point to either. Through you, I hope to find rest.
In Chicago, I tried to get Mr. Whiskers out of my mind. I'd had a bad dream. It had to be a bad dream. I went to the Spread Eagle, afraid not to. I just sat like a frozen mummy ordering ham sandwiches I couldn't eat and coffee I couldn't swallow and listening to downbeat piano music.
Mind if I join you?
Pull up a chair.
I'm Truscott, Sam.
You know my name, huh?
I know your name and all about you. Where you come from, your record, and why you're on the lam.
You know all about me, too, huh?
I've watched you. I had a confidential operative check into your pedigree.
What for?
Well, frankly, because I need just such a person as you. For a certain venture I'm involved in.
What do you mean, just such a person as me?
I wanted a man who's at home in, shall we say, unconventional activity. A man I can trust because he doesn't dare go to the police or even to the underworld.
And I'm your man, I guess.
You definitely are.
Okay, let's go.
Heard you agree just like that? Without even discussing price? The nature of the work?
You said I was your man. Fact is, Tresca, I'm your man, and there's nothing I can do about it.
This is our destination, Sam.
Here? In the middle of nowhere?
Up that footpath over there, say 1/8 of a mile, you'll find a private lake. I own it.
All right for you.
Yeah, thank you. And there lies your first chore. Behind us on the floor of the car is a burlap sack. Its weight, I would estimate, is 118 pounds, more or less.
What? We've been riding a court, sir.
We have. You're to carry the burlap bag and contents up that footpath to the lake and drop it in there. And without tears, Sam. Mind you, without tears. From this point on, as the saying goes, we're in business, Sam.
What's the next event?
Wedded bliss. For you.
I'm to get married?
You are. Tomorrow evening, you'll call on your radiant bride-to-be at this address.
15 Cantilever Walk.
Yeah. And try to look more cheerful, Sam. Love comes but once into every man's life.
I could hear Mr. Whiskers giving me the horse laugh somewhere as I climbed the steps to 15 Cantilever Walk. Big gray stone as if someone had imported the side of a mountain. Iron over every window. And gloomy enough to give even a crepe hanger to St. Vitus dance. I rang the door buzzer.
Hi, Sam.
Do I kill the bride before or after the ceremony?
Make yourself at home, Sam. Wander about. I'll see what's keeping your blushing bride.
I wandered about with my eyes popping over the expensive layout. Whatever Tresca's game was, it wasn't penny ante. The joint screen, big stakes, right down to the needlepoint footstool. Where did Mr. Whiskers figure in it? A minute later in the library, I began to catch on a little. Mr. Whiskers was right in the game. There, sitting over the fireplace in a big gold frame, was Mr. Whiskers.
You like the portrait, Sam?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's quite a painting. Who is Mr. Whiskers?
Mr. Whiskers. That's a trifle irreverent, but an apt nickname. He was my brother Stephen.
What? He's dead?
You sound as if you were ready to dispute it.
I just asked, is he dead?
Very much so. Dead and buried. Your manner is a little odd, Sam.
I'm sorry. I'm Reggie. Getting married is an idea I've got to get used to.
Well, then meet your bride. That's one way of bringing the idea to roost. Constance. Sam, this is my niece, Constance. Constance, this is your fiancé, Sam Tyler.
Hello, Sam.
Hello.
Well, I'll leave you to get acquainted. You want to exchange premarital views on love and homemaking.
There wasn't a blush in my blushing bride. Her cheeks were chalk white. Her face had the look of death. Like some creeping sickness had already called 2 strikes on her. Sat down at the piano. I stood watching. Looks like you're stuck with me, kid. If Tresca has his way.
Tresca will have his way.
What's your angle, kid? Why is the niece of $1 million layout ready, willing, and able to marry a deadbeat ex-con mug?
I'm obliged to marry.
What do you mean, obliged to marry?
The terms of my father's will. I inherit his estate at midnight tomorrow. Only if I'm married.
Beginning to make some sense. Mr. Whiskers up there was your father?
Yes?
Well, why pick me? A mug your uncle brought home. Why not scout your own dearly intended?
I'm not well enough to...
Hey, you sound as if you're not even well enough to live.
No, Sam. I'm not well enough to live much longer.
We were married with Tresca and the scrub woman standing as witnesses. I shacked up in the big jail at 15 Cantilever Walk. I was the legal husband of an heiress, but I wasn't congratulating myself on my good luck. There was a hidden gimmick somewhere. I pried. I searched Connie's room. I found the hidden gimmick in the lady's handbag. The handbag was crammed with the usual junk girl stock, a powder case, lipstick, nail file, comb, plus a driver's license and a Christmas Club bank book. But they weren't in Connie's name. The name on them read Ann Powers. I got it as fast as I read the name. The girl was a ringer, another patsy in Tresca's game.
You needn't feel too guilty, Sam.
What?
I left my handbag where you could find it.
I had to look. Tresca killed his niece and hired you to stand in for her. You going to deny that?
No.
How did you come to fall in with Tresca?
I was in a restaurant. Tresca came along and hired me. My life, Sam, every bit of it hadn't been good. I couldn't die, leaving it all bad.
You wanted to do one decent thing before you died.
Yes.
You made the wish and Mr. Whiskers appeared and took you up on it. He sent you to Tresca and Tresca hired you. You're going to tell me that's what happened.
You're hurting me.
Is that what happened, I asked?
No. You don't know anything about this obsession you have with Mr. Whiskers.
What good deed can we do around here, kid?
Tresca murdered his niece to steal the estate for himself. We just won.
Hooray for Tresca.
Connie's father left the money to charity. If his daughter failed to marry, Constance refused to marry.
She wanted the bundle to go to charity.
Yes, to atone for her father's past. His life hadn't been much either.
$1 million to charity, that's a lot of squaring up.
That could be our one decent act, yours and mine, Sam. Make Tresca's scheme fail.
Quite an ambitious undertaking for newlyweds. Huh? Well, now, don't you two look at me as if I were another supernatural or occult visitation. I entered through a secret sliding panel on the north wall. I overheard your odd tete-a-tete simply by donning earphones. The room is wide.
You don't miss a trick, huh? What's the gun for?
What are guns for?
There was a charge like stale air exploding. I spun around but didn't drop. This was where I had come in. Tresca, like Nick, could empty his gun point blank, but he couldn't rub me out. It was exactly where I had come in. There in front of me, Tresca was getting the same dose Nick got. His face was purpling as if he was suffocating. As if some invisible someone had his hands around Tresca's throat. Having trouble with your breathing, Tresca?
I can't breathe. Just in here.
He was on the floor, rigid, out for keeps like I'd seen Nick once.
Is he dead?
Deader than a doornail. We sat around, the three of us. Tresca, the girl, and me, waiting for Mr. Whiskers. We sat all day and all night and through half the next day, but Mr. Whiskers didn't show. Mr. Whiskers didn't show, as if he never was.
Sam.
What?
He exists only in your mind. You're waiting for a man who died a year ago. How do you explain that to yourself?
I don't explain it. Maybe Mr. Whiskers doesn't have to come anymore. His job is done. One last thing, and our job is done.
What? One last thing, Sam?
The cops. We tell them what gives and hand $1 million over to charity. That's the one decent act, the purpose that brought us here.
It's the purpose that brought you here. I just hired out to Tresca for pay.
What about that wish you made on the docks, kid?
It was different on the docks. I was sick and broken, hopeless. I'm not broke or hopeless anymore. I can buy a cure. I can take a trip, spend money, all kinds of money, have a good time I never knew. I can laugh.
saying we shut up and keep the estate between us.
Why not? In the way we earned it.
No good, kid. I've got a promise I've got to keep.
A promise you made to a ghost.
My promise to tomorrow.
But if you can't keep that promise because I won't let you. What if I won't let you cheat me out of my one chance to live?
How?
Like this?
She backed away from the piano with Tresca's gun in her hand. The gun is no good. I don't kill, kid. You saw how I don't kill.
That was before, Sam. You do. Kill now. Don't kill now.
There's one last line, Chief, sort of a dying scribble. The girl was right. I did kill now. That's the end of it, Chief. What do you make of it?
Suppose we let the answer write itself at 15 Cantilever Walk.
Well, the confession's the McCoy, all right. That's Sam Tyler on the sofa, Tresca on the floor, and there's the girl out cold, still holding the gun. Got any pulse?
No, she's dead. No visible cause, Davy. Just dead. I'm getting a faint pulse on Tyler. Sam Tyler.
What? You the police?
Yes. The girl shot you and you just about bled to death. You know the whole story, Sam.
So the girl got to do that last decent thing after all.
The girl didn't do anything. Her heart blew out after shooting you. We read your confession down at headquarters.
My confession?
Yes. This 5 and dime notebook. Yeah, see it? It was tied to a rock and tossed through the window at headquarters. You wrote it, but what we want to know is who delivered it.
I didn't write that confession. I didn't write it or deliver it.
You didn't write. And it was the girl. She had enough left to get downtown and get your story to us. If not you, it had to be the girl.
You'll have to ask Mr. Whiskers about that. If you hurry, you might catch him somewhere between two worlds. Merry Christmas, Chief.
An irate taxpayer just told me the state of Illinois intends to mail a bill to Mr. Whiskers for that broken police station window. They're busy digging up a dead postman so he can speed delivery of the bill out of this world. Sad about Tresca. A perfect plot gone to pot because his brother, although kaput, wouldn't stay put.
We invite you to join us again next week at this time for Inner Sanctum. This is the United States Armed Forces Radio Service, the voice of information and education.
Lux presents Hollywood. Lever Brothers Company, the makers of Lux Flakes, bring you the Lux Radio Theater, starring Maureen O'Hara, John Payne, and Edmund Gwenn in Miracle on 34th Street. Ladies and gentlemen, your producer, Mr. William Keeley.
Greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. Our Christmas present to you is the new Christmas classic of our time, Miracle on 34th Street. It's wrapped in a gay covering of laughter, tied with a bright ribbon of good humor, and decorated with the 3 sparkling stars of the 20th Century Fox picture: Maureen O'Hara, John Payne, and Edmund Gwenn. This is a wonderful story for the whole family, and perhaps some families may be gathered around a Christmas tree as they listen. Others will be putting up this happy sign of the season in a few days with lights and ornaments and the shining snow that can be made with Lux Flakes. Later, we'll tell you how to do this trick with Lux. But right now, it's curtain time for the play that proves there's a Santa Claus. Miracle on 34th Street, starring Maureen O'Hara as Doris, John Payne as Fred, and Edmund Gwenn in his Academy Award-winning performance as Kris Kringle. It's Thanksgiving Day in New York City. On a broad avenue adjoining Central Park, an annual event is being joyfully awaited. The spectacular parade presented by Macy's department store to herald in the Christmas season. Away from the crowd are 2 of Macy's public relations experts.
He's simply wonderful, Mrs. Walker. Just look at him on that float. The most realistic Santa Claus we've ever had. Why, he didn't even need any padding, did he?
Padding?
Why, didn't you notice his tummy? So round, so firm, so fully packed. Well, now that everything's under control, where on earth did you find him?
I don't know. I just turned around and there he was.
And to think that the man whose place he took was intoxicated.
With a breath that would knock over a reindeer.
Oh, just think if Mr. Macy had seen him.
What if Mr. Gimble had seen him? Competition between our stores is tough enough.
Well, the parade's starting. Let's stand at the curb.
Not I, Mr. Shellhammer. I'm going home to relax. Anyway, I can see it from there. I live just around the corner.
Oh, so you do. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, Mrs. Walker. And congratulations on finding the best Santa Claus in Macy's history.
Certainly is a wonderful parade, Susan. Just look at that clown. Gosh, what a giant.
Giant, Mr. Gailey? There are no such things as giants.
Well, not now, maybe, but in olden days there's...
Really, Mr. Gailey? And you a lawyer.
Well, what about the giant that Jack killed? You know, Jack and the Beanstalk?
Everybody knows that's a fairy tale. And I agree with my mother. Fairy tales are silly.
Come in.
Oh, hello, Mother. I'm watching the parade. Mr. Gailey invited me.
Hello, darling.
Susie's told me quite a lot about you, Mrs. Walker.
She told me quite a lot about you, too. The man in the front apartment.
Well, this is all part of a plot, Mrs. Walker. I'm very fond of Susie, but I also wanted to meet you.
At least you're frank.
There's no Santa Claus.
Oh, don't even mention the name.
Why not, Mother?
Well, that Santa Claus you see is a last-minute substitute.
But why?
Oh, remember the way the janitor was last New Year's?
Oh, my. Tight as an owl.
I see Susan doesn't believe in Santa Claus either.
That's right. She never has.
Well, that's the end of the parade. Mother, I've been thinking. It's Thanksgiving, and there are only 2 of us. Couldn't we invite Mr. Gailey?
Well,
Oh, please don't bother. I'll just have a sandwich or something.
But we have such a big turkey. Please, Mother, please.
Well,
Shall I ask her all right, Mr. Gailey?
Susie, shh.
You asked fine, Susan. Dinner's at 3, Mr. Gailey.
Hello, Mrs. Walker.
Yes, Mr. Shellhammer.
Your maid said you were at Thanksgiving dinner, but I just had to tell you. Your Santa Claus was stupendous.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Macy himself wants him to be our toy department Santa Claus.
Oh, fine. Can you hire him?
Oh, I already have. Oh, he's a born salesman. I just feel it.
Good. We'll talk about it in the morning. Thanks for calling, Mr. Shellhammer.
Here he is, Mr. Shellhammer. Here's Santa Claus.
Oh, thank you, Alfred. Thank you. Good morning, Santa Claus.
Good morning.
Now, before you go to the toy department, here's a list of toys that we have to push.
Huh?
You know, things we're overstocked on. Now, you'll find that a great many children will be undecided as to what they want for Christmas. And when that happens, you immediately suggest one of these items. Do you understand?
I certainly do.
Fine, that's fine. Now, take the list, and Alfred here will show you to your throne in the toy department. And don't you forget, you're working for Macy's.
Are you really Santa Claus?
Why, of course I am. What do you want for Christmas, little boy?
I want a fire engine with a real hose that squirts real wet water, and I won't do it in the house. I'll only do it in the backyard, I promise.
And I promise you'll get your fire engine.
You see, Mama, I told you you'd get me one.
That's fine. That's just dandy. You wait here, Mortimer. Mama wants to thank Santa Claus, too.
Yes, madam?
So what's the matter with you?
No. What's the trouble?
I told you before, didn't I? The kid wants a fire engine, but there isn't one to be had anywhere in town. Macy's ain't got any. Gimbel's ain't got any. Nobody's got any. My feet are killing me, and you say, okay, he gets the fire engine.
But you can get those fire engines at Schoenfeld's, Lexington Avenue. Only $4.50, a wonderful bargain.
Schoenfeld's?
Yes.
Hey, I don't get it.
Oh, I follow the toy market very closely.
Macy's sending people to other stores?
Yes.
Are you kidding?
The one important thing is to make the children happy. Whether Macy's or somebody else sells the toy doesn't matter. Don't you feel that way?
Who, me?
Yes.
Oh, yes, sure. Only I didn't know Macy's did. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Who's next, please? Right this way to see Santa Claus. All right, little girl. You're next.
Of course, little girl. You want some roller skates? Well, you shall have them, too.
Mama, he's going to bring me some roller skates.
And he has some fine skates here at Macy's, haven't you, Santa Claus?
Oh, they're good skates, all right, but not quite good enough. Now, I left some really wonderful roller skates at Gimbel's. I'm sure Gimbel's have just what this good little girl wants.
Mr. Shellhammer, are you Mr. Shellhammer?
Gimbel's? Gimbel's? That's just what he did say. Gimbel's.
The sales lady said I should speak to you.
Gimbel's.
I just wanted to congratulate you and Macy's on this wonderful new stunt you're pulling.
Gimbel's.
Imagine a big outfit like Macy's putting the spirit of Christmas ahead of the commercial.
Gimbel's.
From now on, I'm going to be a regular Macy customer. All right, Mortimer, we're going.
Gimbel's!
And there's the toy department over there, Mr. Gailey.
You certainly know all about Macy's store, don't you, Susan?
Well, that's because my mother works here. But I still think it's silly bringing me here to see Santa Claus.
Well, I just feel that when you talk to him, you might...
Okay, Mr. Gailey. I'm certainly willing to try.
Well, what a fine young lady, eh? What's your name, little girl?
Susan Walker. What's yours?
Mine? Chris Kringle. I'm Santa Claus. Oh, you don't believe that, eh?
You see, my mother's Mrs. Walker.
Oh.
But I must say you're the best-looking Santa Claus I've ever seen.
Really?
Your beard, for instance. It doesn't have one of those things that goes over your ears.
That's because it's real. Just like I'm really Santa Claus. Now go ahead, pull it.
Oh, my goodness, it is real.
Yes, yeah. And now what would you like me to bring you for Christmas?
Nothing, thank you. Whatever I want, my mother will get. If it's sensible and doesn't cost too much.
That's quite right, Susan.
Oh, hello, Mother.
Hello, Mr. Gailey.
Hello. The explanation for all this is very simple. Your maid's mother sprained her ankle. She had to go home, so she asked me to bring Susie down to you. And as long as we were here, I figured we might as well say hello to Santa Claus.
He has real whiskers, Mother.
Susan, would you mind standing over there a minute?
If you want me to.
I shouldn't have brought Susie to see Santa, is that it?
Now you're making me feel completely heartless.
I'm sorry.
Don't you see, I tell Susan that Santa Claus is a myth, and you sure are a very convincing old man with real whiskers. Well, whom is she to believe?
Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
When Susan was a baby, her father and I were divorced. And ever since then, I've protected my child by teaching her realities. If you don't believe in fairy tales and fantasy, you can never be hurt or disillusioned.
We were talking about Susie, Mrs. Walker.
And I must ask you to let me raise her as I see fit. All right, dear. The store's going to close soon. We'll run along to my office.
said you wanted to see me, Mrs. Walker.
Oh, yes. Come in. I'd be grateful if you would please tell Susan that you're not really Santa Claus, that there actually is no such person.
Oh, but Mrs. Walker, not only isn't there such a person, but here I am to prove it.
No, you misunderstand. I want you to tell her the truth. Now, what's your real name?
Kris Kringle, and I always tell the truth. Susan, I'll bet you're in the first grade.
Second grade.
I mean your real name.
Well, that is my real name. My goodness, the second grade?
Very well. I have your employment card right here. I'd look it up on that.
That's a very cute dress you have on, Susan.
It's from Macy's. We get 10% off.
Oh.
So, you always tell the truth, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Look at your employment card.
Name, Kris Kringle. Address, Brooks Memorial Home, Great Neck, Long Island. You may call the home if you'd care to confirm that, Mrs. Walker. It's a home for elderly gentlemen.
Would you also like me to confirm this?
What's that?
Date of birth. As old as my tongue and a little bit older than my teeth. Place of birth, North Pole. Now, really.
Why, I believe you doubt me, Mrs. Walker.
And this tops everything. Next of kin.
Oh, that.
Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen. I'm sorry to have to do this, Mr.
Kringle?
But the Santa Claus that we had 2 years ago is back in town, and I feel that we owe it to him to...
What, have I done something wrong?
No. It's just that we feel... Oh, excuse me. Hello?
This is Mr. Shellhammer, Mrs. Walker. Drop whatever you're doing. Mr. Macy wants to see us immediately.
Oh, I'll be right up. I'm afraid I'll have to be very abrupt with you. I have to see Mr. Macy. You'll be paid for the full week, Mr. Kringle, and I'll send your check to that address.
Come right in, Mrs. Walker. Mr. Shellhammer.
Thank you, Mr. Macy.
Now, about this new policy you two initiated. Macy's Santa Claus sending customers to Gimbel.
Well, I can explain everything, Mr. Macy.
You don't have to explain a thing. Just look at my desk. 42 telegrams and over 500 phone calls. Grateful parents expressing undying gratitude to Macy's department store.
Why, you don't say.
From now on, not only will our Santa Claus continue in this manner, but every salesperson in the entire store.
You mean that if we haven't got what the customer asks for, we're
to send him where he can get it. No high-pressuring and forcing a customer to take something he doesn't really want.
I think that's wonderful, Mr. Macy.
Why, we'll be known as the helpful store, the friendly store. The store that places public service ahead of profits. And consequently, we will make more profits than ever. As for you, Mrs. Walker and Mr. Shellhammer, you'll find a more practical expression of my gratitude in your Christmas envelope.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And tell that wonderful Santa Claus I won't forget him either. As a matter of fact, I'll tell him myself in the morning.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Macy.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, Mr. Macy.
And thank you again, sir. Oh, imagine a bonus.
Yes.
Well, what's the matter with you?
Mr. Shellhammer, I just fired him.
Who?
Santa Claus.
No, you couldn't have.
But I did. He's crazy, Mr. Shellhammer. He really thinks he is Santa Claus.
I don't care if he thinks he's the Easter Bunny. Find him.
Act 2 of Miracle on 34th Street will continue in a moment. Well, Libby, have you given Santa your Christmas list?
Yes, indeed, John. And number 1 on my list is a pair of Chinese pajamas with a 3/4 coat and little upstanding collar. Just like the ones Mata Torin wears in Rogue's Regiment.
Perhaps you'd better have the wardrobe mistress of Universal International show Santa what you mean.
Well, I'm sure Dick Powell or Stephen McNally could give him a good description. They found Mata very glamorous in this modern story of the French Foreign Legion.
And what a villain Vincent Price is in Rogue's Regiment.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the edge of my seat through the whole picture. And you talk about a pair of pajamas.
Well, they were very special. Mata liked them so well, she had 4 pairs made for her personal wardrobe. And she was delighted when they told her she could Lux them.
That's about the easiest care in the world. Especially now with the new tiny diamonds of Lux. Another triumph of the famous Lever Laboratories. These tiny diamonds are so much faster, they burst into suds the instant water touches them. And make wonderfully rich suds that last and last.
Don't colors look marvelous when they're Luxed? So fresh and new. No wonder smart girls say they won't risk wrong washing methods.
Tests prove that with gentle care with Lux Flakes really makes a difference. Lux slips and nighties stayed new looking 3 times as long. And that's just like getting 3 pretty slips for the price of 1.
A really thoughtful Santa would put a box of Lux Flakes in every lingerie gift next Friday night.
Here's our producer, Mr. William Keeley.
Act 2 of Miracle on 34th Street, starring Maureen O'Hara as Doris, John Payne as Fred, and Edmund Gwenn as Kris Kringle. It was a frantic few hours that Doris spent last night, rushing out to the Brooks Memorial Home in Long Island and assuring Kris Kringle that Macy's wanted him back as Santa Claus. Now Kris is again presiding over the crowded toy department, while in her office, Doris and Mr. Shellhammer...
Don't you understand, Mr. Shellhammer? That old man with the nice white whiskers insists that he is Santa Claus. Why, he's out of his mind. What if he should have a fit or something? Oh, no, I've got to tell Mr. Macy.
Yes, but maybe he's only a little crazy. Anyway, you can't be sure until he's examined. We'll send him to Mr. Sawyer.
Sawyer?
In personnel. He's paid to examine employees, isn't he? And now, by the way, what do you think of this?
What is it?
A full-page ad Macy's is running in tomorrow's newspapers.
Macy's is running it. But it's all about the other stores, Gimbel's and Saks.
I know. Mr. Macy's idea to help our customers find what they want. It's revolting, isn't it?
That Santa Claus certainly has started something. Oh, well, I'll get a hold of him in his lunch hour and send him up to Mr. Sawyer.
So I changed my clothes, Mr. Sawyer, and came right up.
Oh. Well, then that's your own beard, huh?
Oh, yes.
Interesting complex in back of that. Why do you carry a cane?
Always carry a cane, Mr. Sawyer. Well, that is when I wear street clothes. I carved this cane out of a runner from one of my old sleighs.
What's that? What's that?
With a fine, solid silver top.
Who was the first president of the United States?
Oh? Oh, give me a difficult one. Like who was vice president under James Monroe?
I'm conducting this examination.
The answer is Daniel D. Tompkins.
Oh.
Yeah. You're a rather nervous man, aren't you, Mr. Sawyer? Tell me, do you get enough sleep?
My personal habits are no concern of yours. Now, what hand am I holding up?
Right hand.
How many fingers do you see?
3. Oh, dear. You bite your nails, too.
Stand up now. Feet together. Arms extended.
Muscular coordination tests? I've taken dozens of these tests. Mr. Sawyer, are you happy at home?
What? That will be all, Mr. Kringle. The examination is over.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it may interest you to know I've been happily married for 22 years. Very happily married.
Delighted to hear it. Goodbye, Mr. Sawyer.
Miss Paul.
Yes, sir.
Get Mrs. Walker on the phone.
Yes, sir. But your wife, Mr. Sawyer, she's called 4 times already.
Well, you tell my big fat wife to shut up and mind her own business.
Here's Mrs. Walker, sir.
All right. Hello.
Oh, I was just going to call you, Mr. Sawyer.
Oh?
There's a Dr. Pierce stopping by this afternoon at 3.
Who's Dr. Pierce?
He's the physician at the Brooks home. I thought we might discuss Mr. Kringle's case with him.
Well, there's hardly any point in discussing it, Mrs. Walker. Obviously, the old man should be discharged. So, Dr. Pierce, Kringle should be dismissed immediately and sent to a mental institution.
Oh, now, just a minute, Mr. Sawyer.
He's deluded, saying that he's Santa Claus.
It's a delusion for good. I found he only wants to be friendly and helpful.
His whole manner suggests aggressiveness. Look at the way he carries that cane. Mrs. Walker, naturally, I can't discharge that loony, so when he exhibits his maniacal tendencies, please realize the responsibility is completely yours.
Well, I'm right back where I started.
Mrs. Walker, I assure you, Kris Kringle has no maniacal tendency.
But if there's the slightest possibility of us causing any trouble...
What trouble?
All that needs happen is a policeman ask his name. Kris Kringle, clang, clang, and Macy's Santa Claus lands up in the psychopathic ward.
Well, you can prevent that very simply. Now, there must be someone here at the store who could rent him a room. Then they could both come to work together. I'd just as soon he avoided that long train ride to Long Island anyway.
You mean sort of take custody of him?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Mr. Kringle would agree to that?
Oh, I'm sure he'll agree.
Well, in that case... Now, let me see. Who do I know who could rent him a room?
I'm glad you're going to have dinner with us, Mr. Kringle.
Oh, thank you, Susan.
I'm also very glad you're going to live next door with Mr. Gailey.
Oh, why?
Because you're nice to talk to.
Oh, I say, what a fine young man that Mr. Gailey is, eh? Just think, allowing me to share his apartment, a mere stranger.
He did it because Mother hinted to him.
Oh, well, anyway, I'm very grateful.
Shall I tell you what I did in school today?
By all means. Any games?
Yes. And a very silly game, too.
Oh?
They played zoo, and each child was supposed to be an animal.
Oh, but Susan, they were just pretending.
But that's what makes the game so silly.
Oh. Well, of course, in order to play games, you need imagination.
Oh, that's when you see things, but they're not really there, huh?
Oh, yes. Yes, but, you know, to me, imagination is a place all by itself. Now, you've heard of the French nation, and the British nation.
Yes.
Well, this is the imagination. Yeah. A very interesting place, too. Now, how would you like to be able to make snowballs in summertime, eh?
What?
Or be the Statue of Liberty in the morning, and in the afternoon, fly south with a flock of geese?
Well, I'm quite sure I'd like it, but...
Oh, it's very simple. Very. Well, anyway, look here. The next time they play zoo, you can be a monkey.
But I don't know how to be a monkey.
Don't you? Oh, I'll show you. Now, first, you bend over a little, like this, see? Now, let your arms hang loose, see?
Like this?
Yeah, that's fine, fine. Now, put your hand over here and start scratching, see? That's it. That's it. That's excellent, Susan. That's as fine a bit of scratching as I've ever seen. Yeah. Now you start chattering.
Chattering?
Yes, now listen. See? And keep scratching. Now then, look here. We'll do it together, see? Chatter and scratch and chatter, see? That's fine, Susan. Fine. You're doing beautifully. Beautifully, yes. Susan, are you still awake?
Uh-huh.
I've just come in to say good night, Susan, that's all. Now, look here, about Christmas. There must be something you'd like for Christmas.
Well, I've certainly thought about something, Mr. Kringle.
You have? Well, what is it, eh? Tell me.
It's right here on the night table, see?
Oh?
I tore this page out of a magazine. It's a picture of a house.
Oh, that's what you want, is it? A doll's house. Colonial architecture.
Oh, not a doll's house, a real house.
A real house?
Yes. And if you're really Santa Claus, you can get it for me.
Now, wait a minute, Susie. What could you possibly do with a big house?
Live in it with my mother. And a backyard with a big tree to put a swing on, and a garden, and a... Oh, well, why even discuss it?
Susie, could I keep this picture? Just in case?
I guess so.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Well, Mr. Gailey's waiting for me. Good night, monkey.
Good night, Mr. Kringle.
Take whichever bed you want, Mr. Kringle.
You're very kind, really. Tell me, Mr. Gailey, what is it you just do for a living, eh?
Oh, I'm a lawyer. Haslip, Sherman, and Mackenzie.
Oh. And you like living here in the city?
Well, it's convenient. But someday I'd like to get a place on Long Island.
Huh.
Not a big house, just one of those junior partner deals around Manhasset.
Oh, one of those little colonial houses, eh?
Yeah. A little colonial house would be swell.
Good, yes. You're quite fond of Mrs. Walker, aren't you?
A lot of good it does me. She lives in a cast iron shell that's just a little difficult to penetrate.
Oh. Well, you must try a little harder, Mr. Gailey. You know, Mrs. Walker and that child are a couple of lost souls. And it's up to us to help them. See?
No?
Yes, she... Oh, well, shall I turn out the light?
No. I'm not going to be cheated out of this. You know, all my life I've wondered about it, and now I'm going to find out. Tell me, does Santa Claus sleep with his whiskers outside or inside the cover?
Oh, outside, of course. Outside, by all means. The cold air makes them grow.
Oh, thank you very much.
Come in, Mrs. Walker. Come in.
Thank you, Mr. Macy. I've just heard something very exciting.
You have? Well, let me tell you something very exciting. Our policy of being kind to customers has tripled our sales. Now, what do you think of that?
That's wonderful, Mr. Macy. And Gimbals thinks it's wonderful, too.
Gimbals?
Gimbals are adopting the same policy.
Well, is that so?
And it gives me an idea. As long as Gimbals are doing the same thing, why not some pictures for the newspapers?
Pictures?
Yes. You and Mr. Gimbal shaking hands.
Shaking hands? R.H. Macy and Gimbal?
Well, yes.
Yes, why not? With Santa Claus. It's a great idea, Mrs. Walker. Macy and Gimbal shaking hands. That's enough pictures, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Mr. Gimbal?
Come on, R.H. Now we'll go over to my store and get some really good pictures.
Oh, just a minute. I have something here for Santa Claus. Here you are, Mr. Kringle. A check in appreciation of all you've done.
Mr. Macy, why, that's most kind of you.
I didn't think you were that generous, R.H. That's quite a check. What are you going to do with it, Mr. Kringle?
Well, I have a friend, a Dr. Pierce. He needs a new X-ray machine.
You buy the machine through the store. 10% discount.
Nonsense. Come over to Gimbals. We'll furnish it at cost.
Oh, keep it up, gentlemen. Keep it up. At this rate, my friend will have a whole new hospital.
How did the pictures turn out, Mr. Kringle?
Oh, fine, Alfred, fine. How about a game of checkers during lunch, eh?
Oh, not today, Chris. I don't feel so good.
Oh? What's the matter, Alfred?
Oh, nothing much. You remember I was telling you how I like to play Santa Claus over at the Y and give out packages to the kids?
Yeah?
Well, I was telling Mr. Sawyer about it, and he says that's very bad. That psychologically it's all wrong.
Wrong? To be nice to children?
Well, he says guys who play Santa Claus do it because when they was young they must have done something bad. Now they do something they think is good to make up for it, see? It's what he calls a guilt complex.
Alfred, what else has he found wrong with you?
Oh, nothing much. Just that I hate my father. I didn't know it, but he says I do.
Excuse me.
Hey, ain't you going to have lunch?
Later. Right now, I have an appointment with Mr. Sawyer.
What do you mean, breaking into my office like this?
Are you a licensed psychiatrist?
What business is it of yours?
I have great respect for psychiatry and great contempt for meddling amateurs who go around practicing it.
Oh, shut up.
You ought to be horsewhipped. Taking a boy like Alfred and filling him up with complexes and phobias...
I think I'm better equipped to judge that than you.
Just because Alfred wants to be kind to children, you tell him he has a guilt complex.
Yes. Having the same delusion you couldn't possibly understand.
Oh.
And don't you wave that cane at me.
Either you stop analyzing Alfred or I'll go straight to Mr. Macy and tell him what a contemptible fraud you are.
Get out of here. Get out of here before I have you thrown out.
There's only one way to handle a man like you. Maybe this'll knock some sense into you.
Oh! Oh, help! Oh, my head! My head! Oh!
Good day, Mr. Sawyer.
Miss Prawn! Get me the police! Get me Mrs. Walker! Get me the psychopathic ward in Bellevue Hospital!
You can see Mr. Kringle now, Mr. Gailey.
Thank you, nurse. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Fred.
Chris, I've been speaking to the doctors. They said they've given you some tests.
Oh, yes. Same old tests.
Except this time you failed to pass them. Chris, you deliberately failed. Why?
Why? Well, because I had great hopes, Fred. I had a feeling Mrs. Walker was beginning to believe in me, and now Well, now I discover she was only humoring me all the time.
But this wasn't Doris's idea at all. Mr. Sawyer had you sent up here before she even knew about it.
But why didn't she come to me and explain things?
Because she didn't want to hurt you.
Oh, well, it's not just Mrs. Walker. Well, now, take Mr. Sawyer. He's contemptible, dishonest, deceitful. Yet he's out there and I'm in here. Well, if that's normal, I don't want it.
But you can't just think of yourself, Chris. What happens to you matters to a lot of other people. People like me who believe in what you stand for, and people like Susie, who are just beginning to. Chris, you're letting us down.
Well, Fred, maybe you're right. Of course you're right. I ought to be ashamed of myself. Let's get out of here.
Now, wait a minute. You flunked your mental examination, but good.
Oh, yes, so I did. Oh. Well, anyway, you're a lawyer. You fix it.
Hey, look, I can't just...
Now, I won't let you down, and you won't let me down.
Chris, now take it easy. Look, there'll have to be a hearing. If you're going to be committed, it has to be before a judge.
Well,
if I can do anything at all, it'll have to be in courtroom. Now, sit tight, Chris. I'll get an idea. I have to get an idea.
Sent for me, Mr. Macy?
I certainly did, Mr. Sawyer. I brought my family to the toy department to see our Santa Claus, and our Santa Claus isn't there. He's in Bellevue.
Yes, Mr. Macy.
Because he's a lunatic.
Yes, sir, a lunatic.
Lunatic, my foot. Now, you listen to me, Sawyer. You get that case dropped right away, or you'll have another lump to match the one he gave you.
But it's out of my hands. Mr. Kringle goes to court in the morning.
Well, just see that he's back in the toy department by afternoon. Now get out of here!
Oh, Mr. Gailey. Mr. Gailey.
Yes?
I've been looking all over for you. I'm Mr. Sawyer.
Oh, so you're Sawyer?
Yes. I was just speaking to the court clerk, and he said you represent Mr. Kringle. Well, I represent Mr. Macy.
Oh, then I'll see you in court.
Oh, no. That's what I wanted to speak to you about. Now, Mr. Macy would like to drop the whole case right now. You see, we're most anxious to avoid any publicity.
No publicity, huh? Well, that's very interesting.
Oh, then you'll cooperate?
You know something, Sawyer? You've just given me the idea I've been searching for.
Oh, good.
If I'm going to win this case, I'm going to have public opinion and plenty of it. And publicity's just the way to do it. Thanks. And so long, Mr. Sawyer.
Mr. Gailey? But Mr. Gailey!
Look at these newspapers, Chris. Here. Evening Dispatch. Doctors doubt sanity of Santa who launched Goodwill campaign.
Oh, my.
Daily Bulletin. Macy's Santa Claus to have lunacy hearing.
What's this one?
The New York Express.
Is Chris Kringle crazy? Court case coming. Kiddies cry calamity.
You've driven the United Nations clear back to page 5. Well, get a good night's sleep, Chris. We go before Judge Harper at 10 tomorrow morning.
We pause now for station identification. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System. Our stars will return with Act 3 of Miracle on 34th Street in a moment. When a new player signs a contract with 20th Century Fox, she soon gets well acquainted with Miss Helena Sorrell, head dramatic coach. Helena, do you like to watch your pupils perform in the picture?
Oh, of course, John, because I take a personal interest in them. I'm especially proud of Betty Grable in her new picture, When My Baby Smiles at Me.
Betty's become a really fine dramatic actress.
She certainly has.
She and Dan Daly are magnificent as a couple of vaudeville hoofers.
And Betty's costumes in When My Baby Smiles at Me gave me a thrill. And I was amazed how many things the wardrobe department washed with Lux Flakes. It reminded me of my theatrical days when I was on the road and lived in a couple of trunks.
A box of Lux Flakes in each?
That's absolutely true, John. I was never without it, in my hotel or at the theater.
Well, then you've probably discovered that the new tiny diamonds of Lux are more wonderful than ever. They're so much faster and richer. Do more for you, too. They remove soil which other types of suds can't. Leave things cleaner, fresher.
And Lux Flakes keep colors lovely.
You're right there. That's why it's foolish to risk wrong washing methods that may fade colors. Actual tests show that with gentle Lux Flakes care, colors stay lovely up to 3 times as long.
That's a good tip for girls who get nice blouses and sweaters for Christmas.
Right you are. And thank you for coming tonight, Helena Sorrell. We return you now to William Keighley.
The curtain rises on the third act of Miracle on 34th Street, starring Maureen O'Hara as Doris, John Payne as Fred, and Edmund Gwenn as Chris. For a few weeks, a jolly elderly gentleman named Kris Kringle has been working minor miracles as Macy's Santa Claus. But now his sanity has been seriously questioned, and in a crowded courtroom, Judge Harper listens patiently as the assistant district attorney summons Chris to the witness stand.
Now, this is not a trial, Mr. Kringle. It's just a hearing, so you don't have to answer any questions. Now then, where do you live, please?
Well, it seems to me that's what this hearing will decide, won't it?
Mr. Kringle, do you believe that you are Santa Claus?
Of course I do.
That's all, Your Honor. The state rests its case.
Well, Mr. Gailey? Your Honor, Mr. Mara contends my client is not sane because he believes he is Santa Claus.
An entirely logical conclusion.
Anyone who thinks he's Santa Claus is crazy.
Your Honor, you believe yourself to be Judge Harper. Yet no one questions your sanity because you are Judge Harper, do they?
Mr. Kringle is the subject of this sanity hearing, not I.
Well, Your Honor, I intend to prove that Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus.
I thought you said this was a cut-and-dried sanity hearing.
I thought it was, Your Honor.
In view of Mr. Gailey's statement, I'll have to review the entire background of this case. Court adjourned till tomorrow morning.
Hello, Doris. I'm sorry I'm late, but get ready. We're really going to celebrate tonight.
What are we celebrating?
Well, didn't you read the papers? Santa's mouthpiece throws bombshell in New York Supreme Court.
Oh, Fred, you're not really serious about this. You can't possibly prove that Kris Kringle is Santa Claus.
Well, you saw Mr. Macy and Mr. Gimble shake hands. That wasn't possible either.
What does your firm have to say about it? Hayslip and McKenzie and the rest of them.
That I've jeopardized their prestige, and either I drop this impossible case or they'll drop me.
You see?
So I beat them to it. I quit.
Fred, you threw away a career because of a sentimental whim?
Well, I'll open my own office.
And what kind of clients will you get?
Oh, probably a lot of people like Chris who are being pushed around. That's the only fun in law anyway. Doris, look. Don't you have any faith in me at all?
No, it's not a question of faith. It's just common sense.
But faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to. It's not just Chris that's on trial. It's everything he stands for. Human kindness and love and dignity.
Fred, listen. We've seen a lot of each other the last couple of weeks. I've become fond of you. We've talked about some wonderful plans, haven't we? And then you do this. Go on an idealistic binge, throw away your security, and expect me to be happy about it.
And I expect too much. Is that it? Well, that's that, I guess. Good night, Doris.
Hello. Yes, this is Mr. Mara. Well, can't it wait till tomorrow? I'm eating dinner. Who's been subpoenaed? Well, how do you think I feel about it? I'll see you tomorrow.
Who's that, dear?
R.H. Macy's been subpoenaed.
Oh, my.
Those reporters. They make me look like a sadistic monster who likes nothing better than to drown pussycats and tear wings off butterflies.
Quiet, dear. Tommy's still awake.
Oh, yeah.
It'd just break his heart if he knew what his daddy is doing.
I'm doing my job as assistant district attorney.
Well, I'm not so sure, but that I agree with them. Mr. Kringle looks like a very nice old man, and I don't see why you have to keep persecuting him.
I'm not persecuting him. I'm prosecuting him. I like the old man, too, but there's nothing I can do about it.
You know something, Thomas? Sometimes I wish I'd married a butcher or a plumber.
Well, if I lose this case, it's very possible you'll get your wish. R.H. Macy, I wonder what he's going to pull tomorrow.
Proceed with the witness, Mr. Gailey.
Now then, Mr. Macy, if you recognize the defendant, please tell us who he is.
Why, Kris Kringle, of course.
Do you believe him to be of sound mind?
Sound mind? I wish I had a dozen like him.
Mr. Macy, you are under oath. Do you believe that man is Santa Claus?
Well, now, that's a rather delicate...
Just think of those headlines tomorrow. Macy admits his Santa Claus is fraud.
You keep out of this, Kimball.
What did you say?
Nothing, Mr. Barber, nothing.
Well, I wish you would. Is that man Santa Claus?
Yes, in my opinion, he most certainly is.
Your Honor, there is no such person as Santa Claus, and everybody knows it.
Can you prove there isn't any?
I won't even try. I'll not waste the court's time with such childish nonsense. Your Honor, the prosecution requests an immediate ruling from this court. Is there or is there not a Santa Claus?
Well, now, the court will take a short recess to consider the question.
Hello, Henry.
Why, Charlie, what are you doing here?
Got an old friend visit you in your chambers? And if you ask me, you never needed a friend like you do now.
This Kringle case? Well, I certainly don't see what they're making such a fuss about.
Henry, that's Santa Claus you've got out there. On trial for lunacy. This case is dynamite. And you're coming up for re-election soon.
Charlie, you know what happened last night? Martha brought the grandchildren over. They wouldn't kiss Grandpa. They wouldn't even talk to me.
You see what I mean? If you rule there is no Santa Claus, you better start looking for that chicken farm right now.
I'm a responsible judge. How can I seriously rule that there is a Santa Claus?
Because of what happens if you don't. The kids read about it and they don't hang up their stockings. Now what happens to all the toys that are supposed to be in those stockings? Nobody buys them. The toy manufacturers have to lay off employees. By now you've got the AFL and the CIO against you. Yes, and they're going to say it with votes, see? Oh, and the department stores are going to love you, too. Yes, sir, Henry. And what about the Salvation Army? They got a Santa Claus on every street corner. They're taking a lot of money to help the poor. But go ahead, Henry. You go in there and rule there isn't any Santa Claus. But if you do, you can count on getting just 2 votes, your own and that district attorney's out there.
1 vote, Charlie. He's a Republican. Oh, well, let's get this over with. The question of Santa Claus seems to be largely a matter of opinion. The tradition of American justice demands a broad and unprejudiced view of such a controversial matter.
But, Your Honor...
This court, therefore, intends to keep its mind open. We shall ask for evidence on either side.
But the burden of proof clearly rests with my opponent. Can he produce any evidence to support his views?
If Your Honor please, I can. Will Thomas Mara please take the stand?
Who, me?
No. Thomas Mara, Jr. I believe he and his mother are both in court today.
Hi, Papa.
Hi. Tommy, do you believe in Santa Claus?
I sure do. Gosh, he gave me a brand new sled last year.
Now, what does Santa Claus look like, Tommy?
Well, there he is, sitting right over there.
Your Honor, I protest. Overruled.
Tell me, Tommy, why are you so sure there's a Santa Claus?
Because my papa told me so, didn't you?
Thank you, Tommy. You can go back to your mother now.
See you later, Papa.
You certainly will.
Your Honor.
Don't forget, Santa Claus, this year I want a football helmet.
Don't worry, Tommy. You will get it.
Mr. Kringle, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry, sir.
Your Honor, the state of New York concedes the existence of a Santa Claus. But in so conceding, we demand that Mr. Gailey stop representing and presenting personal opinion as evidence. I insist he submit authoritative proof that Mr. Kringle here is the one and only Santa Claus.
Well, Mr. Gailey, are you prepared to show that Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus on the basis of unprejudiced authority?
Well, sir, no, not now. I need a little time.
Why not now?
Tomorrow, Your Honor.
Very well. Court's adjourned till tomorrow morning.
Oh, brother.
Susan, dear. Finish your supper.
But I can't, Mother. All those things they're saying in the newspapers about Mr. Kringle and Mr. Gailey.
They're having this trial because he says he's Santa Claus.
He's so kind and nice and jolly. He's not like anyone else I know. He must be Santa.
You know something? I think perhaps you're right.
Is Mr. Kringle sad now, Mother?
I'm afraid he must be.
Then I'll write him a letter. Maybe that'll make him feel better. I'll cheer him up.
Oh, postman.
Yeah, lady?
Would you mind taking this letter?
Oh, sure, lady. We're going straight down to the post office now. Okay, Louie, take it away. Well, what do you know, Louie? Another letter for Santa Claus. Hey, here's a new one. Instead of the North Pole, this kid's got it addressed to Kris Kringle, New York County Courthouse.
Well, the kid's right.
Huh? Oh, yeah, sure. They got him on trial down there. He claims he's Santa Claus, and the DA claims he's not.
Hey, I got an idea.
Huh?
How many Santa Claus letters we got down there in the dead letter office?
Oh, who knows? Must be 50,000 bags and bags all over the joint. You mean?
What, Frankie? Why not? Wouldn't it be nice to get rid of them all? Wouldn't it?
Boy, oh boy. Look, Louie, as soon as we get to the post office, we go and see the supervisor. You know something? I bet we both get promoted.
And since the defense has been unable to submit one shred of proof that Kris Kringle is the one and only Santa Claus, and since tonight is Christmas Eve, I ask Your Honor that this hearing be terminated without further delay.
I protest. I do have evidence.
5 minutes ago you said you didn't.
During Mr. Mara's oration, the bailiff handed my client the evidence I refer to.
What evidence?
This letter, Your Honor.
Oh, yes, Mr. Kringle?
It's from Susan Walker. She believes in me. Oh, this letter means more to me than anything in the world.
That letter, Your Honor, was delivered by the United States Post Office, an official agency of the federal government. The Post Office Department was one of the largest business concerns in the world. Last year did a gross volume of over $1 billion, and this year...
Your Honor, I'm sure we're all gratified that the Post Office is getting along so well. But what bearing has it on the sanity of that man?
My point is that the Post Office Department is a model of efficiency. Furthermore, the laws of this country make it a criminal offense to willfully misdirect mail or intentionally deliver it to the wrong party.
The state of New York is second to none in its admiration of the Post Office Department. We're very happy to concede Mr. Gailey.
For the record, Mr. Mara.
For the record. Anything to get on with this case.
Thank you. Your Honor, that letter just received by Mr. Kringle is positive proof that a
One letter is hardly positive proof.
I have further exhibits, Your Honor, but I hesitate to produce them.
Come, Mr. Gailey, put them here on my desk.
But, Your Honor, I don't...
said put them on my desk. All right, boys, bring them in.
Your Honor, what is this?
Empty those mail sacks on Judge Harper's desk. Well, but bring them all in or be fined for contempt of court. No, just a second here.
We'll do it, Your Honor, through rain, through sleet, through courtrooms, anything. We deliver.
Mr. Gailey.
Your Honor, every one of those letters and every one of those mail sacks is addressed to Santa Claus. The Post Office is to deliver them. Therefore, the Post Office Department recognizes Kris Kringle to be the one and only Santa Claus.
Since the United States government declares this man to be Santa Claus, this court will not dispute it. Case dismissed. And for heaven's sake, get this mail out of my courtroom.
So as soon as I got out of court, I came straight to Macy's to see you, Doris.
Oh, Chris, I'm so glad you won.
Well, we're having a big Christmas party at the Brooks home tomorrow morning. I'd like so much to see you and Susan there.
We'll be there, Chris. Oh, Chris, couldn't you come home now and have dinner with us?
Now? Tonight? Me? My goodness, Doris, it's Christmas Eve. Alfred, look who came all the way out here to the home just for our Christmas party.
Chris, it's Mr. Macy.
Mr. Gimble, too. Oh, excuse me, Alfred. Mrs. Walker and Susan have to leave now. I want to see them before they go. So forgive me, will you?
But, Susie, darling, you got so many presents.
Not the one I wanted. Not the one Mr. Kringle was going to get for me.
Well, what was it?
Doesn't matter. I knew I wouldn't get it, but I thought he'd at least tell me why.
Susie. I'm sorry, Susie. I tried my best, but...
You couldn't get it because you're not Santa Claus.
Susan.
Just a nice old man like Mother said.
But I was wrong when I told you that. You must believe in Mr. Kringle and keep right on doing it. You must have faith in him.
But that doesn't make sense, Mother.
Faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to.
What?
I mean, just because things don't turn out the way you want them to the first time, you've still got to believe in people. I found that...
Hello, Doris.
Fred.
Mr. Gailey, Mr. Gailey.
Merry Christmas, Susie.
Gosh. You'll just get here and we're ready to leave.
Oh, I've been here. Oh. And if you're ready to leave, I'll drive you home.
Before you go, here's a map I've made for you. You'll miss a lot of traffic. About 4 miles south, you will see Ashley Avenue. Now, that's the street you want. Ashley Avenue.
Thanks, Chris. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Fred. And to you, my dear. And to you, Susie.
I believe Mr. Kringle. I do. Silly, I suppose. But I do.
I don't understand it, Fred. The map Chris gave definitely says Ashley Avenue. We've been on Ashley Avenue now for...
Stop the car, please.
Susie, what is it, darling? What's the matter?
There it is. The house. The house.
Susie!
What in the world?
She's running into that house.
But at least there's no one home. It's brand new. It's just been built.
Yeah, for sale, it says. For sale.
What on earth is that child up to?
Susie! Hey, Susie!
Here I am. Upstairs.
Now, come right down. You know you shouldn't run around in other people's houses. That's strange.
I'll say.
No. I mean this house. I've seen this house somewhere. I know I have. Maybe in a magazine.
Mother, it's our house. It's the one I asked him for, Mr. Kringle.
Mr. Kringle?
I know it is. Oh, you were right, Mommy. You were right.
Susie.
Mommy told me that if things didn't turn out just the way you wanted them at first, you've still got to believe. And I kept believing. And you were right, Mommy. Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus.
Now where are you going?
In back to see if there's a swing. There is one. Oh, there is one.
You told her that? About believing?
Well, you told me, Fred.
A sign outside. For sale, huh? Well, we can't let her down, can we?
I never really doubted you. It was just my silly common sense.
It even makes sense to believe in me now. I must be a pretty good lawyer. I take a little old man and legally prove to the world that he's Santa Claus. Now, you know that couldn't be.
Fred!
What's the matter?
There. In the corner. By the fireplace.
Oh, no. No.
It can't be. It couldn't.
A cane. Chris's cane. Well, there couldn't be two canes like this anywhere in the world.
Silver handle and all.
Hey, you know something? Maybe I didn't do such a wonderful thing after all.
Before our stars return for their curtain calls, Lizzie Collins wants to tell you about the wonderful way to decorate your Christmas tree, as we promised at the opening of the show.
You can give your tree that fresh from the woods look by covering it with real-looking snow you make yourself from a box of Lux Flakes.
So many people have asked for the Lux recipe for Christmas snow that we gave last week. We'll repeat it tonight. Listen carefully.
Take a large box of Lux Flakes. Gradually add 2 cups of lukewarm water and beat with an egg beater until it has the consistency of thick whipped cream. Then, with your fingers, spread the mixture over the branches of your tree. And that's all.
This snowy covering dries quickly, it won't melt, and lasts as long as the tree. Ask your dealer for a copy of this Christmas snow recipe.
I don't know of any other decoration that costs so little, yet does so much for your tree. It looks lovely used just with tree lights, Or you can add your usual ornaments if you prefer.
Try it on your mantel decorations and table arrangements, too. It gives them a very professional look.
And makes the whole house look more Christmassy. Now, I'll repeat that recipe. Take a large box of Lux Flakes. Gradually add about 2 cups of lukewarm water and beat with an egg beater. While moist, spread the mixture along the branches. If you want extra glitter, shake on some shiny artificial snow before the mixture dries. Let the children help. They'll love doing it and love the snowy tree.
Back now to our producer, William Keeley.
Mr. Kringle's reindeer are waiting on the roof, but we've asked him to pause a moment before he leaves and come back to the footlights with Maureen O'Hara and John Payne. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a real thrill to everyone in Hollywood when Edmund Gwenn topped his entire 53 years as an actor with his great performance as Kris Kringle.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bill. Everyone connected with Miracle on 34th Street, from George Seaton, the author-director, to the prop man, helped me. They all believed in Santa Claus.
How could we help it?
I suppose you've got a strenuous time ahead, Chris.
Yeah?
Covering the entire world in one night.
John, if everyone believed in Santa Claus, peace would break out all over the world in 30 seconds.
I hope you won't be too busy to stop at my house. I'll have my stockings hung up.
Oh, well, I'll stop in, Maureen, but seems rather futile.
Why, Chris?
Well, I couldn't possibly fill her stocking as well as she does.
I see what you mean.
Bill, after that, I think you'd better tell us all about next week's play.
Next week, Maureen, a play straight from your native land. It's the 20th Century Fox picture, The Luck of the Irish. And the stars? Well, we have a superb cast. There's Dana Andrews, Ann Baxter, and Cecil Kellaway. This is a delightful romance, presided over by a most mysterious leprechaun in the person of Cecil Kellaway. I know you'll all enjoy it.
We'll be looking forward to it, Bill. And good night.
Good night.
Good night. Can I give anybody a lift in my sleigh?
Good night and a Merry, Merry Christmas. Before we meet again in this theater, the most joyful day in the year will have come and gone. There are, in our time, as in every time, a few foolish men who deride the spirit of Christmas. But in every country and in every time, they are overwhelmed by those who find in it the hope and happiness of the future, by those of us who believe in our hearts that there can be peace on this earth and goodwill among all men. On behalf of Lever Brothers Company and of us in the Lux Radio Theater, may I wish all of you the happiest of holidays. And we invite you all to join us again next Monday evening when the Lux Radio Theater presents Dana Andrews, Ann Baxter, and Cecil Kellaway in The Luck of the Irish. This is William Keeley saying good night and Merry Christmas.
Maureen O'Hara appeared through the courtesy of 20th Century Fox, producers of The Snake Pit, starring Olivia de Havilland and Mark Stevens. Edmund Gwenn appeared by arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producers of the all-star Technicolor musical Words and Music, based on the lives and music of Rodgers and Hart. John Payne will soon be seen in the Paramount picture El Paso. Be sure to listen next Monday night to the Lux Radio Theater presentation of The Luck of the Irish, starring Dana Andrews, Ann Baxter, and Cecil Kellaway. Stay tuned for My Friend Irma, which follows over these same stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.